Whereas Juneteenth is the oldest known celebration commemorating the abolition of slavery in the United States, and whereas on New Year's Day, January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, providing that all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state shall be thenceforward and forever free. And whereas on June 19, 1865, some 2.5 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, Union Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced that the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. And whereas until that day, slavery had been relatively unaffected in Texas by the Emancipation Proclamation, and Texas had even been viewed as a safe haven for slave owners to relocate with their slaves because the state experienced no large-scale fighting or significant presence of Union troops. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates African American freedom and on a larger scale reminds us of the promises of freedom, equality, and opportunity which are at the core of the American dream. And whereas on this day, we honor the African American men and women that suffered under slavery and all those who have fought for justice, freedom, and equality in the town of Morrisville, the state of North Carolina, and across the country. Now, therefore, the Town Council of the town of Morrisville does hereby proclaim June 19, 2022 as Juneteenth in the town of Morrisville to recognize the abolition of slavery in the United States and encourage everyone to celebrate the culture and achievements of African Americans. Adopted this 14th day of June, 2022, T.J. Cawley, Mayor, Morrisville Council, Eric Smith, Clerk.
Thank you, sir. I will read the National Pollinator Week proclamation. Whereas pollinator species such as birds and insects are essential partners of farmers and ranchers in producing much of our food supply, and whereas pollination plays a vital role in the health of our national forests and grasslands, which provide forage, fish, and wildlife, timber, water, mineral resources, and recreational opportunities, as well as enhanced economic development opportunities for communities. And whereas pollinator species provide significant environmental benefits that are necessary for maintaining healthy, biodiverse ecosystems, and whereas the town of Morrisville provides the community with education to promote wise conservation stewardship, including the protection and maintenance of pollinators and their habitats on working lands and wild lands, and whereas the town continues its advocacy in supporting the health and nourishment of pollinators throughout efforts as part of the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, now be it therefore resolved, the Morrisville Town Council does hereby proclaim the week of June 20th through 26th, 2022 as National Pollinator Week and calls upon all community members to acquaint themselves with the value and benefits derived from planting native species to help keep birds and insects equipped to support the pollination of our food supply, adopted this 14th day of June, 2022. At this time, I'd like to request that Kimberly Connolly, our Sustainability Coordinator, come up front to accept this proclamation.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is important and really special. This is the second year that the town has committed to being a part of the Monarch Pledge, and this is just another representation of that commitment. Of the 1,400 approximate plant crops that are grown in the world, 80% require pollinators. So it's really important to keep our pollinators healthy and thriving. Thank you.
This time I'd like to recognize that Councilmember Scroggins Johnson has been able to join us. We already did the talk about any conflict of interest. Is there anything that you'd like to share about anything on the agenda? Nope? Okay.
No
Thank you very much.
Yep.
At this time, I will read the Pride Month proclamation. Whereas June is Pride Month in which lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people and allies come together in various celebrations, and whereas the town of Morrisville stands with the LGBTQ+ community in a celebration of diversity and unity, and in remembrance of how far our country has come in the struggle to ensure that people live openly, without discrimination, and the affirmation of equal rights, And whereas we are proud to join other communities in acknowledging June as Pride Month and reaffirm our town's belief in the equal dignity of all people, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. Now, therefore, the Town Council of the Town of Morrisville does hereby proclaim the month of June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month and invite everyone to reflect on ways we can all live and work together with a community to respect and dignify and to celebrate our diverse community, adopted this 14th day of June, 2022. At this time, we are at item 10, public address. Town Clerk Smith will now present any public comments received and let us know who is signed up. And I'd like to remind everyone that speakers are limited to 3 minutes at the podium, and the clock will count down. When you get to 3 minutes, it will beep, and it'll turn red. At that time, please finish that one thought, and if you have anything additional you want to share with us, please feel free to email the town clerk or us afterwards. I don't want to have to interrupt anyone.
There were no public comments received via email, and the first individual signed up to speak and provide public comment is Nathan Hayes. Nathan Hayes, I apologize.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nate Hayes. I live at 9729 Dancington Court in Raleigh. I am a contributor to Emerging Cricket. I have written about USA Cricket and Major League Cricket and Minor League Cricket. I also designed the Morrisville Raptors logo. I'm certainly not alone when I say that this community and Church Street Park have played a massive role in accelerating my enthusiasm for cricket. To me, Church Street Park is an example of effective local democracy. Not long ago, a few people from this community expressed concerns and frustrations over the termination of the Cardinals team, the minor league team. The bottom line is a franchisor elected to terminate a franchise and put a new franchise in its place. This is not the place to discuss that, but there were damaging remarks said that were not completely true. For starters, it's important to know that Church Street Park and Morrisville are now very important to the future of cricket in the USA. And that reality is a source of pride to many of us here. In many ways, the growth of cricket throughout the world depends on the success of cricket here in the USA, and the success of cricket in the USA depends on the success of Major League Cricket. Church Street Park will play a role in this, and I'm confident MLC will succeed. I have confirmed the following facts with USA Cricket. Major League Cricket has already invested several $1 million in ACE USA partnership, including USA player salaries, USA national team expenses, and the development of facilities. MLC and minor league cricket are exclusively sanctioned by USA Cricket as the highest level professional T20 cricket in the USA. The venues that MLC are developing, such as Church Street Park, are intended to be made available to USA Cricket throughout their partnership. So in the 45 months since the 2018 qualifiers here, USA Cricket have played 0 games at Church Street Park, and this is because Church Street Park only qualifies for the T20 format. There are 2 major formats USA plays, T20 and ODI. The big deal is to try to get this ground approved for ODI cricket, and the best way to do that is through a deal that you currently have in place that we're very grateful for with Major League Cricket that would bring more cricket here. In the meantime, Major League Cricket are bringing minor league games here. Minor league finals have been here, will be here in the future, and we're looking forward to more Major League games also, but that can only happen as long as this community stays together and supports Major League Cricket, Minor League Cricket, Triangle Cricket League, and the city of Morrisville all together, which we have in the past. I consider the team in Morrisville to be the flagship of the entire 2016 minor league cricket. Minor league cricket has a great deal of expectations for whomever owns and operates that team, and contractually requires minor league owners to invest in the infrastructure, which is a good thing for the community, and especially good for the youth who otherwise have a hard time finding grounds. So it's plain to see that Major League Cricket is not abandoning the Morrisville community, rather they're doubling down on this community. And this will provide a pathway for young cricketers who have had a lot of success lately, thanks to USA coaches, thanks to Major League coaches that are made possible via the Major League Minor League deal and USA deal. And this will continue to provide a pathway for those young cricketers. So thanks to all of you for helping to make that happen, and thanks to this community for supporting cricket and never taking the easy way out. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. Also, next, I believe, is Mark Stolman on the list, and he's not here, but he asked if I could speak on his behalf.
Is council okay with that?
If it's a different statement, not more of the same? If
It's a different statement.
Are we okay with that then, everybody?
And Mr. Stolman wrote the statement and provided it to you?
Yes, he sent it to me, yes.
Okay, we're comfortable with that.
He's on an airplane right now, so.
Another 3 minutes then, please, sir.
Great.
Thank you.
Good evening, Town Council and Town staff. On behalf of the thousands of cricket enthusiasts in Morrisville and Wake County, I want to thank you for your continued support and, more importantly, for your vision for the future. Sleepy Little Morrisville is internationally known as one of the premier cricket venues in North America, and your partnership with ACE only cements that legacy, ACE being the same thing as Major League Cricket. Once the Church Street Park upgrades are completed, Morrisville will be in a strong position to host major international matches. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Morrisville Raptors matches this summer. Thank you for your time, Mark Stolman. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
The next individual signed up to provide comment is Dane Pete.
Could you please provide, your name and your address for the record?
Will do. Good evening, Council. My name's Dane Pete. I live at 5840 McCrimmon Parkway in Morrisville. It was early 2020 where I got opportunity to come to the USA and make a difference with cricket. I was fortunate enough to represent South Africa at the highest level of cricket, which is Test cricket. I moved another continent with my family, who now lives in Morrisville too. I coach girls and boys 5 days a week, and coming from a country that is known for being a cricket powerhouse, I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of talent within the region. Boys and girls ranging from 11 to 19 that really made my eyes open, and I could not believe the amount of talent that's in, as referred to earlier, Sleepy Morrisville. I'm seriously in favor of the support of the council and the city of upgrading Church Street Park into a ODI, a one-day international certified venue, as I've been fortunate enough to play in some of the best grounds in the world. Church Street Park, literally, with the upgrades, would be one of the best looking venues within the Northern Hemisphere. Yes. And I'm in favor of the support to do that. I will be captain of the Morrisville Raptors this season, and our goal with another 3 professionals who have also moved their families to Morrisville and the surrounding areas are to make it a powerhouse within the city of Morrisville and within the United States of America out of the 26 teams. We have a huge variety of talent. I could rattle off the names, but they've been part of the junior coaching structures within the Triangle Cricket League and have now migrated into the Morrisville Raptors team and will be part of the core group, which definitely leads to a bright future of cricket within the Morrisville area. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual signed up to provide comment is Rupali.
Hi everyone, my name is Rupali Ulal and my address is 5 Bonsack Court, Durham, North Carolina. I'm here on behalf of the cricketing community in North Carolina. I've been involved in cricket for the past 5 years or so, primarily in women's and girls' cricket. I was in St. Louis just this last weekend, and during a team event, the Houston team came up to us, and they were like, "We look up to you for inspiration and motivation. North Carolina is where women's cricket started." And I remember the USA board member calling me and saying, "Houston wants a women's cricket team, can you please help them?" While I was flying back last night and I had a layover in Nashville, I got a call from New Jersey. One of the parents, 2 parents actually, were on a conference call and they were like, "Rupali, we saw you, we saw your team, we saw the parents. We want to move to North Carolina. How can we make this happen for our girls?" Right here is Gitika Kodali, a great example. She moved from California here just for cricket. She represents the US women's team and is the U19 cricket captain of the USA cricket team. She moved here for cricket, for better opportunities, and for the community support. Our support has helped us take her cricket to the next level. And how that has helped us is that not only has she taken her cricket to the next level, I have Dia and Palak. Please stand. I have Dia and Palak over here. They joined our program just last year, and within a year, they are playing with these girls. They're playing with these girls. We have Mitali here, who represents the US U19 team. So cricket for us has been about the community and also about building character. When these girls join our program, I have 7-year-olds in our Angels program. They join the program and they learn how to function with 10 other individuals. These are important life skills. This is not about cricket. It helps us in life. It helps us with our families, with our work. So it really helps build character. They can, play cricket as a recreational sport, or they can take it to the next level. I really appreciate all the support the town has provided. These girls have waited a long, long time for this opportunity. We need to take cricket to the next level. We need to, provide them more facilities. Let's make it happen for them. I really wish we can do it all for them, and I hope we have your support and the community support to make this happen for not just the girls, but even for the boys. Thank you.
And just to remind everyone, we don't respond directly to public address, but we hear it, staff hears it, and we take appropriate action.
The next speaker is Shiva Koremla, I apologize.
I don't know if I can match Rupali, but I'll try. I don't know. I think my clock might start pretty soon, only 3 minutes. I'll see if I can race through like Ricky Bobby. All right. So, good evening, Mayor, Councilmen, women, and the public staff, and the other residents here. My name is Shiva Koremla. I'm a local resident, and we live at 1237 Stowage Drive, Cary, North Carolina. We, as a family, have been living in this area since 2007. So I would proudly say Morrisville not sleepy anymore. It's very active today. So I'm here to share my experiences and observations on cricket facilities in our area, how it positively impacted me, my family, and people around me, which is the community, right? So we are raising 2 beautiful athletic and sports-leading daughters. Yeah, right, thank you. Initially, they showed very less interest in cricket. Well, what can you expect from 8-year-olds' attention span, right? But once we went or took them to a couple of games at Church Street, Cricket Park, they got hooked. It became a ritual for them to go support the local team, and it turned out to be a great family outing for us. We as a family enjoyed it thoroughly. So this may have inspired them to play international cricket one day. Maybe I need to get in touch with Rupali pretty soon here. As a community, cricket in our facility continues to be a glue to bring the people and hold them together. It was a great icebreaker for me to have a conversation with other residents who essentially may or may not look like me, right? So I was able to forge many relationships that way. Without cricket, in an organized fashion, this wouldn't have happened. So thanks for the town. And all the above experiences were possible due to world-class cricket facilities we have developed in the area by town of Morrisville, and further encouraged to know the facilities will be enhanced in partnership with minor league cricket and A's. Oh, I was tickled to death. I strongly believe these new enhancements to existing facilities in partnership with MILC A's will bring more international cricket for the fans, better coaches to refine skills of the talented players. This also makes cricket accessible to the local community in an efficient manner. I was just on a call on my way here, and I spoke to one of the parent, and he's like, man, I don't want to send my kid to California. So that tells having accessibility locally is a big thing for the parents like me. Final words, I would like to thank Town of Morrisville leaders, public staff, and also a local team, Morrisville Raptors, representing town and the community on the national stage. Looking forward and excited to 2022 season and also for the future international games. I did it.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sudhindra Kaliga. Those speakers come down next. If you speak in the normal tone,
Okay.
Good evening, council members. This is Sudhindra Kaliga, and I live in 1025 Fulbright Drive in Morrisville. I just want to reiterate the words given by the speakers just now about the cricket and just support them. And I myself have an 8-year-old kid who gets trained in cricket from the great coach Alvin Kalicharan and the team. So I really applaud the efforts given by the TCL and also the town of Morrisville to make cricket happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Prakash Rangaraju. I apologize.
Good evening, Council. That's the first time I heard my name pronounced properly. Thank you for that. I'm Prakash Rangaraju. I live at 421 Holston Bankway at Cary, North Carolina. Today, I can't beat what others have said about how cricket built the community here. I want to stress on it, right? And I want to say that the importance of having a team, a major league team or a minor league team, and the importance of that to the community. And just recently, there was a poll for naming the teams for naming the team that's going to be here, and I saw that kids were actively involved in answering to the survey and all that. My son was 13 years old, who was involved greatly in cricket. So he is, he was all energized about naming, and finally a team name was chosen. So just to show how the feeling of community is important, right? For kids, especially the young kids, boys and girls, to have some involvement actively in the community, and I feel like Morrisville kind of facilitates that environment for the kids. Another aspect to highlight, Morrisville also brings an organic, sustained economic development and growth to the area, right? And you heard some parents mention that the parents who moved because their kids have greater opportunity in Morrisville, so they moved from elsewhere like California and other states that do have presence in cricket and all that, but still they chose to move to Morrisville because of this ecosystem that this city has built. And I want to stress that this organic development that has taken place in Morrisville did not happen overnight. It's a work of over a decade by many members of the community, and including children and organizers, the groups here that help support it. And of course, most importantly, the Morrisville Town Council. And I think I've never seen anywhere, I've lived in about 6 or 7 cities in the US, I've never seen anywhere the kind of partnership the local league, the town, the city, and a team has, such as this one. So this is like a very, very unique example. And I want to highlight a happier moment and recollect a happier moment of cricket in Morrisville. 2017, there was an event called World T20 Qualifiers. So countries like US, Canada, Panama, Belize, they all participated in qualifying for what it is, what is a T20 World Cup in the United States that was going to happen. The Church Park just opened, and just few days before the event, there was a big storm, and barely few days after we had the tournament scheduled to run, and I saw the entire community turned up with buckets and sponges and towels to dry up the entire area, along with other city workers who helped us to run the tournament. Those are the moments, the communities we strive for. And in order to do this more, we need a community and we need a team, and your support most importantly. Thank you.
Thank you.
next speaker is Aditya Gupta.
And just for our information, how many speakers are signed up for this evening, sir?
There are 4 more speakers signed up.
Okay, thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Aditya Gupta, 736 Weavers Ridge Drive. Playing cricket in TCL has been a blessing for me. I've been playing cricket in TCL for probably the last 8 years now. Playing in Morrisville and in Church Street Park has probably been one of the best things that has happened here in Morrisville for the TCL community. Getting to know all of the TCL volunteers has been great because coming together as volunteers and building this organization has made it what it is right now. And to be a player in TCL and in this foundation of minor league and major league cricket is a blessing. To actually play with professional players and in professional stadiums, and the environment that we're being able to play in is just surreal and something that I wouldn't be able to imagine happening in USA Cricket. And that's something I'm very grateful for. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Sai Suhini. Sai Suhini. The next speaker is Serini Bamu or Bami.
Good evening, all. My name is Srini Bomu. I live in 1012 Delronde Lane, Morrisville. Today I'm here to support. I used to think about Morrisville Cardinals. I'm a cricket enthusiast. I love in the small town. People are there who are very instrumental in getting the team here, and we were so happy. But of late, unfortunate things are happening, I believe. We don't know. I was under the impression that Morrisville Raptors, the name change, it was a seamless kind of thing. But I believe there are some, I don't know whether I can use this word or not, some ulterior motives and other external folks coming here and trying to destabilize the stability in the town and the unity. So there are a lot of my friends, I know them very closely, who are living in this. I've been in this place from almost 2005 onwards. It's a small, beautiful town. And cricket was really happy that it is getting in, but unfortunately, these kind of things and rambling happening probably might destabilize the unity. I humbly request all of you to take a look into it. And there are a lot of stakes, I believe, monetarily involved. More than that, the friendship and the spirit of the cricket. Please take a look and address it accordingly. Thanks a lot for giving me this time.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Siva Sundaramurthy.
Hi, my name is Siva Sundaramurthy. I live in 1265 Hill Holloway in Apex. I have a very big speech, so I have to do a Usain Bolt now. But I'm going to be very point-based, right? There were 3 things that was raised by a number of speakers, including the gentleman who just talked right now, about stuff that they were concerned about. The first one is ACE canceling the Morrisville Cardinal contract. So Morrisville Cardinals is a private for-profit organization, just like how Morrisville Raptors is going to be, right? So it is a franchisee with the league organization problem, and it should be above cricket, right? So it should be above all this petty politics, right? So it is, if the Cardinals is not happy with that, they should go to court, and they should get it resolved in the court, not come to the council and say we should not partnership with ACE or anything like that and develop cricket here. So I'm here for cricket development, period, right? The second one is ACE has given us, Raptors, which is also Morrisville Raptors. I have to throw off all my Cardinal shirts and buy Raptor shirts. That's the only change. For me, it doesn't matter who owns the team. I want to support the Morrisville Raptors or Cardinals or whatever and make sure the team wins and do my little part on it. The second one is ACE is not a reputable organization. We should not partner with them. That was the second ulterior motives, as somebody said, right? ACE has been chosen by USA Cricket as the strategic partner. We have Satya Nadella of Microsoft, Shantanu of Adobe, Ross Perot Jr. of the Dallas Mavericks investing in it, 20 people investing $70 million, up to $1 billion will be invested for cricket. And that money should come to Morrisville too. That is my main thing. And if we don't partner with ACE, they're gonna go to Charlotte, and it's gonna be Charlotte Raptors, right? We are gonna lose, the cricket is gonna lose, the children are gonna lose. Nothing else is gonna happen, right? ACE might move it to somewhere else, that's it. So we should think about cricket and the town and not think about private problems between two private entities. And the last one is TCL should not work with ACE, right? So last 2 years, TCL, I'm a volunteer, I'm not a captain, I'm not a BOD, I'm not nobody, I'm just a player, and I volunteer for TCL just to improve cricket. I go, I mop the floor in, you guys would have seen me, right? I pull the cars, do the heavy lifting. Why do I do it? For cricket, that's it. I don't care who plays, who is owning the team, who makes money, I have no problem. And there are thousands of people or hundreds of people like me, right, who just do it for cricket. And TCL has been volunteering with MILC for the last 2 years. There was no problem then. Why is the problem now? Just because it's Raptors? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. It is our custom that if there's anyone here who failed to sign up beforehand, if you'd like to sign up now, if you want to go ahead and approach the microphone, name and address for the record, and you'll get 3 minutes. I see one and then another person right after.
Good evening, Councilman. Good evening, all. This is Sridevi Mudunuri. Good to hear all of you. The cricket, Morrisville has been a hub and a home and passionate for cricket more than 10 plus years. So I'm proud to say we are one of the people who believed in all this cricket, who has passion, who wants to take it to the next level and started all this, the Cardinals or minor league, all those things. The good thing is the sport and money. I heard somebody saying that who makes money, who doesn't make money. Until 2020, the cricket is the sport here in Morrisville, but with ACE or some other organizations coming in, it has turned into a corporate business and money-making thing. The thing, I don't think, I've lived in this place 25 plus years, never heard of money and sport or money and cricket, never. Last couple of weeks and months, by using a name, cricket, sport, people are trying to make it a business. Money has been brought in, which is basic against any sport, the unity and inclusiveness. Cricket is there in Morrisville 10 plus years, with or without ACE. It will be there next 20, 30 years. We could host all the games, international games, national games, and all the things. My primary request are the people who love or believed in cricket, we don't want to club cricket, politics, and money with the sport cricket. Cricket is above and beyond all these things. The town of Morrisville should make sure we should have all the facilities to play world-class cricket by spending taxpayers' money. That should not help any entity or business organization. That should help the cricket sport. If we are building with the taxpayers' money, any of the infrastructure, that should help the sport, not if one or two organizations who is in the business of sport with an agenda to make money. That's all.
Excuse me, if you could give your residential address for the record, we'd appreciate it.
265 Seymour Place, Cary, NC 27519.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Ram Kuntumukula, 205 Oceanside Lane, Cary. I'm actually a little surprised because this public hearing is supposed to be like around 7:30 or something. So we were planning to be here at the time, but I didn't know that they're going to start before. But few things here. Cricket is important for everybody. I think that's one platform I think we all agree. Nobody disputing that cricket is not important. The problem here, and I think that's what the town needs to address, is we were here a couple of weeks back bringing to you an issue that what is happening in this town, and the town needs to be aware of it. And I haven't heard any updates or anything from the town. I don't know what the process is. I would appreciate if the town can get back in some form or some media of how they're going to address that issue based on some of the things we discussed with the town a few weeks back. Number three, Cardinals is important. I mean, this town has identified itself with Morrisville Cardinals, and for somebody to say they don't care, they're willing to put on a new jacket and just move on, try that trick when you go to Green Bay and you take out Packers and put something else. People are not going to take it easy. I mean, the town has certain levels of identification. This town, we invested a lot of money, effort, our sweat equity, our emotions, everything in Morrisville Cardinals. And we did a lot of work. A lot of people here, a lot of them are my friends. And we put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of things. We work with them. And for them to just pull the plug and give it to some other franchise, I think it is really disappointing, the fact that the town and the rest of the people, for them, it doesn't matter and they want to move on to something else. I think it's really disappointing. And I think everybody needs to understand that. And the reason we were also here last time was about, the town and the contract with ACE and how they need to work with that thing. And I think we have a very good point at that point in time because it's the taxpayers' money, and I don't think the town has done its due diligence in working out that contract. And I think as taxpayers, I think we did our part and we brought it to your attention to take a look at it and say, listen, look at the contract and see what is the town's benefit out of this. That's all we did. We didn't say anything else at that point in time. So we expect the town to come back with some level of information that we can probably receive and see what the next steps are. But we believe this town still has what we call the Morrisville Cardinals, and we believe that that's what it's supposed to be. I'm not sure why the new team came. In fact, the new team, we don't even know who the owners are. Whereas Morrisville Cardinals, it's local people, local taxpayers, raised, and I was here for the last 20 plus years in this part of the world. They just pulled it and gave it to somebody, and we don't even know who those person is. Surprise. I mean, how unreal that is. But anyway, that's what I wanted to just bring it up to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else who wanted to address the group? Okay.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nilesh Patel. I live at 416 Charleville Court in Cary. And a lot of people have said a lot of things about cricket. I want to say something about Morrisville. This is very welcoming for all of us to be here. I myself don't live in Morrisville, but spend probably 30 out of 40 hours a week in Morrisville. And I don't necessarily know the politics and the decisions that are the reason for this meeting. But what I want to say is Morrisville and its development of cricket as a sport. And I understand that baseball, tennis, all the other facilities that we see here. The town has made a very conscious decision, from what I can tell, to actually, if I may say, live e pluribus unum, right? This is, all of us who look different are here, and the town has made cricket the town sport. It's not a British sport or a South African sport or Indian sport or whatever, but it has become a Morrisville-centered sport. And that's why I want to thank the town and say, do whatever good you are doing. I don't know the politics, so I don't want to go into the details of that, but I am sure that many smart people here will decide what is right. But I want to applaud the town for doing what is already done and hoping that you will continue to do what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So as I mentioned at the outset, we have heard you, staff has heard you, and we are working to get more information and work on this item. So thank you all very much for coming out. We appreciate all your input. We're moving on to number 11 now, agenda item 11, action items. There is one action item on tonight's agenda, and you guys are welcome to stay, or you could move on. It's up to you. There's one action item on tonight's agenda, adoption of the FY 2023 Annual Operating Budget and Capital Investment Program. Martha Page, Town Manager, and Jeannie Hooks, Director of Management Services, will facilitate this item. Ms. Hooks.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. It's always exciting to get to this point, this very important point in our process for developing a budget. So staff does not have any updates at this point, and we really stand ready for Council to make a motion to adopt the budget and the CIP as it has been adjusted at the direction of Council. So we provided you with a script. We put it on the screen here. You can make one motion, one adoption for all of the items that are listed in the motion script.
Okay.
So I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Excellent. And afterwards, we'll each have a chance to speak about the budget if we wish. We'll have discussion after the motion as well. Any questions for staff? Okay. I'd entertain a motion.
Entertain a motion. Should I read that?
I recognize Councilmember Garamella. Yep.
Okay. Like a motion to adopt ordinance, budget ordinance 2022-181-A as adjusted establishment, the annual operating budget / CIP for the fiscal year 2023, adopted resolution 2022-181-B authorizing and levy and collection of taxes and fees by Wake County and Durham counties, adopt resolution 2022-181C amendment, amending the roadway and the transportation capital reserve fund, adopting grant project ordinance amendment 2022-181-D, appropriating ARPA funds for projects, and adopt capital budget ordinance 2022-181-E relating to CIP capital budget.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes 6-0 unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Council. Thank you for senior leadership and all the departments and key staff that have really worked to pull all of this together. And it all starts with Council's vision that gets us going.
Okay. Would anyone else like to chime in their thanks or have any comments about this? Councilmember Garamella.
No, I really want to thank the council and the staff to work together and get this flawlessly and quickly enough because there was not contention. And thanks to everyone accommodating and working. And good job for making our life easy, Jeannie and the staff. Thank you, Martha. You took our inputs and correctly put the right way. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Rabadi.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that the reason that the budget process is so seamless year after year, and I feel like it's getting faster and better each time, is because I think that you, Jeannie, and Martha and Brandon do a great job of listening to the council all year and reminding us of what we think when we forget. And so I just really want to thank you for another great budget that really reflects the values of this council and the value that we have for Morrisville. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, please.
So I just want to echo what Councilmember Garamella and Councilmember Rabadi said. Thank you all very much. I think only those that are deep in this know how much work goes into putting a budget together. So I thank you, Jeannie, and our whole staff for your effort. The only other thing I want to add, I want to really thank the citizens of Morrisville for their vote on the bond this past November. This budget greatly reflects the input from our citizens and what they value and the amenities that they want to see in our community. So I just want to make sure we say thank you to the voters of Morrisville that allowed us to include amenities in our park system, that included public safety items that will increase response time, that being the fire station and the radios, that the new radios that we will have, and also the attention that we have in this budget to congestion and transportation with our intersection improvements and our road projects. So I really want to give a shout out to the citizens that helped us frame this budget this year with the bonds. So thank you.
Okay. And I'd like to also just wrap up and thank staff so very much. A lot of hard work went behind the scenes, as you mentioned. It was straightforward but complicated. It was a challenging year transitioning from COVID into our better future. You all did a really great job. The residents also, all the input front-loaded was very helpful, and the fact that we collect that all throughout the year, I think is really important. We continue to want input throughout the year as we move forward because our next budget starts now, looking into next year. So thank you very much for that. And I know you're smiling because that is the case for you.
That's true.
You rest a day and then move right on. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and move on to the next
Mayor,
item
I was
then.
going to make a comment. If you don't mind.
Okay, I didn't see yours.
I
Steve,
don't,
go
my
ahead.
thing is gone.
Okay. What would you like to share?
Yeah, I just want to thank the staff and council for a great process. And, one of the things is just to, as the mayor said, just to emphasize to anyone listening tonight online, start now with your ideas in a very constructive and positive manner, sending emails to the council, to the staff, and we'll take it very seriously. And so this budget was really a product of really good engagement and lots of good comments in our portal. So that really works. It's good government, and it's the kind of activity that we need to see in this town. So social media is good, but we see a lot of that being used over the last few years, and I think it's more productive to send your ideas in a positive, constructive manner of the kinds of things that you want. Let us deliberate over it and work with you to make it happen. So I hope to see more of this moving forward, and looking forward to execution as always.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Town Manager Page, anything you wanted to add?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We're at item 12 on our agenda, new items. There are 2 new items on tonight's agenda: an appointed public bodies administrative policy update and adoption of the Master Sustainability Plan. Martha Page, Town Manager, and Brandon Zudema, Deputy Town Manager, will facilitate the first item.
Eric, are you going to advance or do I advance? Here? Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Brandon and I are going to tag team this, and you will see the reference of a number of administrative staff and our town attorney have gone into this administrative policy update. It's something that we've had in place for our town since 2013. Our advisory committees are an essential part of staff's work, your work, and representing the input from our community. And so this appointed public bodies policy provides a framework for their work. We periodically update it to reflect changing and current needs. We as a staff last updated this in March just to provide a policy quorum update. There was a clarification that was needed about where a quorum was in place. We handled that at the administrative level. Your previous review and update of this policy was done in November of 2020. That is when we added the substantive work regarding work plan and charter review and how chair and vice chair appointments are made, and a consideration of some attendance exception requirements. So this year, we've done a really comprehensive review. There are a number of review, cleanup, and clarifications that candidly are not worth mentioning. You have 2 copies in your package of materials, one which is a really messy red line document and a clean document for you to read, as well as our current version so that you compare the changes that we made. 2 really substantive items in this update: a conduct policy. We had a conduct section, and it's one you never want to have to go to, but sometimes you do. And so we fleshed that out with some guidance the council has provided to us to help our committees perform better. And Brandon is going to review that in substantial form and is the most significant update to this policy. And then there has been talk over the last several years about the addition of a social media policy for the advisory committees. Again, it's a tool to guide their work. Council has had a social media policy for several years, and we wanted to allow that to mature before we asked our advisory committees to reflect that. Again, I've given you the names of all the people that have looked through this. Again, several iterations to look through. And I am now going to turn it over to Brandon to go over the conduct general updates.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As Martha mentioned, we had some conversation previously about the conduct section in this policy, and then we had a bit of a reminder that we probably needed to add a little more detail to that and a little more definition to that. So the general updates in that sense is making sure that the committee was focused on committee goals versus personal advocacy. Again, not taking away anyone's right to speech of any way, but making sure that the committee members understood that their role there primarily was to support the committee goals as is generally directed by the council through the charters. We also, again, ensured that there were those mechanisms for promoting individual ideas and perspectives without letting them necessarily take over or negatively impact a meeting or a series of meetings. We clarified that the conduct policy applies to committee business, and that is both during meetings and when representing the committee, whether that be in the community talking, on social media, or other ways. We have added a very clear, I think, definition of some inappropriate behaviors, and then I think importantly, we have added a complaint report procedure. So, we worked our way through that recently, and this is really just taking some of what we learned from that and then some other details to make that as transparent as we can for the committee members and for others that might be exposed to that. So we have laid out some very specific factors here that we just want to highlight for you. The first is complaint communication. So again, if we receive a complaint that is related to an advisory committee, the town manager will notify you that a formal complaint has been lodged. That's what we did the last time. The town manager is also responsible for communicating with that complainant, whoever that is, along with the accused committee member during this investigation of the complaint. And again, the town manager may elect to use a designee to conduct or to assist with the investigation being evolved there. Again, we've laid out clearly that there will be written notice within 5 days to the accused committee member to make sure they're aware that there is an accusation or a complaint against them, and then also clarified that there will be updates to council, to the complainant, and to the accused at least every 14 days. So every 2 weeks there will be an update on where are we, what's been accomplished, what is still yet to come. In some cases it may not take that long, but in some cases, it may very well take that long or longer, so we want to make sure we're being consistent with everyone that's involved with the process. Also, I've laid out some information related to the complaint investigation itself. Again, complaint review and information gathering, laying out specifically what steps we anticipate to be taken. That would include meeting with the committee chair and the staff liaison. They may have unique perspectives on what happened if they were privy to it. Can certainly request written statements from committee members and from staff members. We can request in-person meetings with those same folks. Can review other information that may be related to the complaint as raised, and then, of course, consult with the town attorney, which is always a good step for us to make sure, again, we're being consistent and following not only our own policy, but if it's impacted the law. And then again, ultimately what will come out of a complaint investigation is the town manager or designee will determine whether the complaint is founded or unfounded based on the information available to them, sort of under a totality of the circumstances look. So there could be complaints referred to town council. Again, if the investigation supports suspension or termination of service recommendation by the manager, then that would come to you for that decision. The actions that you can take when those are brought to you. So first, you can accept the town manager report on its face and deal with that. You can also address the complaint in an open meeting, and that may include speaking with the persons involved. It may just include a discussion amongst your peers. That's your option. You can appoint a subcommittee of town council. That would likely be a 3-member subcommittee that would address the complaint and report back to town council. Again, keeping in mind that any vote on any of that would still have to be in public on those complaint findings or any actions you would take. Again, this is not a closed session matter. Closed session addresses town staff. It does not address committee members as they are volunteers. Any questions up to that point?
Seeing none.
Going to keep moving. So the complaint resolution, the complaint can be resolved at staff level in certain circumstances. So if it does not involve a criminal violation, and again, if that does happen, it would be reported immediately to the Morrisville Police Department. If the complaint resolution does not call for a suspension or removal of the member from the committee, then the staff could handle it. And if it does not include a request for removal by the complainant, so regardless of what staff feels, the complainant could be seeking resolution of having another committee or a committee member removed, and if that were the case, it would come to you. If we resolve it at the staff level, the town manager will provide you with a summary and findings of what that complaint was. The town manager will also meet with the accused to inform them of the findings and the resolution that's being imposed, and then also will meet both with the complainant and the advisory committee chair separately to inform them of the findings and resolution, of course, not getting into any details of what that investigation was. But again, we owe that to the complainant, and then because it impacts the committee, we want to make sure the chair is aware of what decision has been made and how that might impact the committee operations. Other complaint resolution options, could be retraining on appointed public bodies' policies, because there could be situations where this is not an intentional act or inaction. It could be just a lack of understanding or even a misunderstanding of what the policy is. And we can address that through retraining and helping them understand what their responsibilities may be, or what the action they took, why it was inappropriate, or inaction was inappropriate, those sort of things. It could also be a written warning to that committee member, a little more formal, more significant than just retraining. Could still include retraining, but would be that next step as well. Again, that warning would identify the inappropriate behavior as well as what impact it's had on the advisory committee. Because that's what we're really focused on, is the smooth and efficient operations of our committees. So we want to make sure that if we're saying you did something that's not appropriate, that we tell you specifically what that is, again, in transparency and in hopes of improving the operations of the committee. If there is a written warning and there's a subsequent offense, that would essentially automatically trigger at least a suspension going forward. Complaint resolution options by council. So if these items are brought to you for resolution, you can do a suspension from participation in committee meetings. This is generally going to be based on a single act that just disrupts the committee's work or creates an uncomfortable work environment. We want to be very conscious of, we have a lot of diversity on our committees, a lot of different people with different perspectives. We want to be respectful of them all. So we want to make sure that they all feel comfortable serving on that committee. If there's a second instance of offending behavior previously addressed through retraining or written warning, that would come to you for potential suspension. Your suspension could be a minimum of 30 days and a maximum of 180 days. We had some conversation about that previously. We've worked through that. I think the concept there is if you were going to do more than 180 days, you really have to question whether that person should continue to serve on the committee. It's also likely to be with 2-year terms. You're essentially likely going to end their term. Any suspension is going to be documented in writing, including that identification of the offending behavior for transparency, and any subsequent issues that would come up after a suspension would result in termination. No 2 bites at the apple in that sense. Your action to suspend a committee member may not be appealed. And then we heard some concern or question about what happens if that person is suspended. How does that impact committee operations? So the suspended member would not count against a quorum during the time of their suspension. It would basically be treated just like a vacancy. So they wouldn't hurt the quorum necessarily. Again, your other option for resolution, termination, and that would be when the advisory committee operations are significantly impeded. That would come from any sort of ethical violation. That could also be conduct unbecoming a committee member, keeping in mind, again, we want representation from the community, but we want them also keeping in mind your goals and your charter, and them performing in a manner that's consistent with that. If there's a previous suspension and then that subsequent act, that would also be termination. And then, of course, if they face criminal charges, we anticipate that would result in a termination as well. Part of that being, depending on what that criminal charge might be, we have certainly a shared obligation to our committee members to feel safe. You also have the discretion to restrict a member from other committee appointments if they are removed. You can set a time period. You could say, sorry, excluded forever, depending on how serious the offense or complaint might have been. And again, any of these actions have to be a vote in open session. And again, if the town manager makes a decision, you could choose to reconsider such an action in probably isolated, but in any of these cases. That was a lot of information, fairly quick. I think you'll find that that is generally consistent with the last circumstance that we dealt with, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have about that.
Thank you very much. I know a lot of hard work went into this. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Garamella.
Thanks, Brandon. This is pretty clean cut and good way of putting this complaints. But my fundamental question is, are we giving the people in the committees guardrails of what to do, what not to do kind of a thing? Because that is more critical when they read it and they understand, and like instead of we don't want issues where, oh, I did not know about that kind of a thing.
Correct. So we are doing that, I think, in two ways. One, they are getting orientation training when they're appointed to a committee. Eric or other staff are handling that as soon as is practical from the date of their appointment. And then the other thing is the annual retraining that Eric does. If you've not sat through that, it's really good, straightforward training that reminds them of what their obligations are, what the expectations are, and what the guidelines within the advisory committee rules are or procedures are.
Okay. That's perfect. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And you provided some examples of behaviors that are not a good idea. You can't cover all of them, but those are
correct.
Some good
yeah,
examples.
we've tried to, again, sort of impose those guardrails, if you will.
Yep.
You'll find that if we try to be too specific, you're going to regret that, because then it'll be something that we didn't account for. We're trying not to be too broad, because we do want to be transparent and treat similarly situated people the same.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
So just a comment. I think you've done an incredible job. I've learned something. I shouldn't read the red line first, because it was
Correct.
really hard to follow. But I wanted to do that because I wanted to see what the change was. So, and clearly you've made a lot of changes. So I appreciate that. And I've always said this, I think it's our responsibility as a council to make sure that our committees are running smoothly and that our advisory committee members feel that they're in a good, safe working environment and a productive working environment. And I think this lends itself to that. The only other comment I wanted to make was you also put in there reference to when we're in a state of emergency, how to handle a few things. And I appreciate you putting that in there. We never had that before because we didn't think we were going to be in a state of emergency for 2+ years that we needed to deviate from our typical procedure. But I appreciate the wording around that as well. So that is now codified for the future.
Yeah, really, partly lessons learned from our most recent experience with the pandemic. And then again, just really putting to writing what the practice has been so that there's fewer questions perhaps in the future.
Yeah. Thank you for doing it.
Councilmember Rao.
Yeah, I'm just curious, I think the gray area is when we get into social media policy. How do we enforce policies without restricting free speech? I know that people talked about, in the slide it said personal advocacy, right? In my own experience, I've seen just over the last few years, many inaccurate statements made by citizens on Facebook, either on HOA sites or our town Facebook, and we cannot stop them because they can say, well, I can say whatever I want, and so how do we govern? I mean, I'm just bringing this up to the council. Is that how do we govern what somebody can say on social media if they're expressing their own opinion? I mean that's I'm just sort of wanting your guidance on that.
So I'd encourage you to go ahead and let Brandon go over the social media policy. You are 100% correct. We cannot restrict First Amendment rights. And as we've mentioned with the conduct, this is about committee business, not, and only affects committee members, not what the general public may comment on social media. We don't regulate that through a social media policy for advisory committees.
I just
Brandon?
don't, okay, that's fine.
That's a perfect
And I will-
segue. I was saying that's a perfect segue.
I think so. Yeah, and I will just say, we fully recognize that that is not always black and white. There are distinctions that need to be made, so we do look for that totality of the circumstances. We've had a lot of conversation with Frank and his staff about this, and so let me run through this, and then that may answer some of your questions, and if not, I'm happy to circle back. So the social media policy is actually a whole new section in the advisory procedures for the committees. I have not had it there before. As Martha mentioned, you all have adopted that for yourselves a couple of years ago. Wanted to let that work a little bit and see if we had any issues rather than, do it for everybody at once and have to fix two places. But given that, this social media policy generally establishes best practices for social media guidelines for advisory committee business. Again, not what they say individually. If it's not related to the committee, again, they do have that certainly the right of free speech, but this is about advisory committee business. Does not apply to non-committee business social media. Many of our folks are active on social media, and they certainly have the right to do that. Again, what we are reminding the volunteers on our committees is that information that's posted on social media can certainly be perceived as coming from the town, coming from you, could be perceived as the opinions of the town. So we want to remind them that they need to be very cognizant of what they're saying and how it could be interpreted or perceived, regardless of what their intent is. Again, it provides specific best practices for posts, just helps people think a little bit more about what they might be putting out there, and again, how it might be perceived. And we've also referenced the elected official social media toolkit for them to use, just as you've been offered that tool to assist and support you. So the best practices that we've addressed for the committee members to hear about, sharing information to inform the public and to encourage their participation. That's a big part of what we ask committee members to do, is not just come together as a body, but get out in the community, be the eyes and ears, bring that back, and then share that information with you and with staff. Honest and accurate posting of information, trying to stay away from opinions and going with facts and information. Quick correction of any misstatements or factual errors. And again, that's where we have to trust that some of the committee members will, to some extent, police themselves. We certainly don't see all of that. We may see some of it. It might be brought to our attention. That's a much more likely occurrence, is that it would be brought to us rather than anyone, proactively seeing that. Avoid policy and topical debate. Again, we would prefer they be focused on what the committee is working on and addressing. Avoid any discourteous remarks. We've seen that a little bit in some of our previous issues. Refrain from disruptive statements. And again, that's one of those not black and white areas, but we can point out examples to the committee members. We can help them understand what that looks like. We have a little bit more conversation in the policy that helps to try to describe that. Avoid personal attacks. Again, never productive, not what the committee work should be about. So again, we're also trying to use our committee chairs to help us with that, and our staff liaisons to proactively look for when those might be developing. And let's have everybody step aside, have an offside conversation. Maybe we can help address that or clarify issues before it turns to something like those personal attacks. And then again, lastly, if they have an opinion they want to share, we just ask them to clarify it as being personal. And that's mostly related to if it's something related to committee work. So again, if they're posting about whatever, not really necessary, but if they start posting about town work or committee work or town issues, we just ask that they clarify that that's their personal opinion and not representative of the committee. So, Councilmember Rao, does that address some of your question or concern?
Yes, I mean, I just think it's hard to enforce, honest and accurate posting of information. I mean, I guess you're talking about just information about stuff that happened in meetings or whatever, that, if it's in the role as a committee member. And I think that that's something that I see as a challenge, which is general use of social media over the few years, is that there are posts with, decisions we make that post inaccurate information, facts that aren't true, marketed to HOAs, and then everybody thinks that's the truth. There's nothing we can really do to stop that. But I just hope anybody on a committee would not resort to that kind of behavior and would be held accountable, that the facts that they're disseminating as a member of the public are not for political reasons, advocacy reasons, but simply for the committee. But I
Correct.
think it could be a gray area because someone could say, well, I can say whatever I want to say.
So I think two things. One, again, we're setting those boundaries, right? We can't define every potential incident that might come up. And then the other piece is that we'll be doing training with the committees should you choose to adopt this update, and they'll see this. So that I think that they will see the work we've done to clarify these procedures and to add a lot of description and language there that I'm sure we will share with them, shows that, you take this seriously, we take this seriously, and that they really are an important part of the overall town team, but they have expectations to follow to be a part of that team.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Abadi, followed by Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson.
Yeah, could we just go back to the previous page? So on the third bullet point here, I wonder if we could broaden that to say does not apply to non-town business social media activity, because I think that it's possible that a committee member, I think it's possible for a committee member to inappropriately comment on another committee, on council business, on staff that they're having trouble with, and I think that all of that is unacceptable from a committee member. I think it's unacceptable from, I think from a council member too, but I mean, it's unacceptable generally. I don't think it's just committee business.
Don't disagree. I think our attorneys would probably support this statement, which is we just need to be careful because they are committee members, so we have a little more leeway or a little more flexibility in what we can and can't suggest they speak about as a committee member. But as a resident, as a citizen that is not speaking to a committee issue, they do, that would fall more under that. Please reference that this is your opinion and not representative of the town. I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but that is some of the conversation we had.
Okay.
Is to trying to draw a reasonable line there that we don't sort of set ourselves up to fail either.
That makes sense.
Is that
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson, please.
Thank you. I do appreciate the policy that outlines the discipline or investigation section that's brand new. That's very thoughtful, and unfortunately we do have some references that we can use as lessons to create that policy. Social media, I agree with Councilmember Rabati. We should be very specific about town business. Because people can comment about, different events that we have and so forth, and that might not be as relevant to their current assignment. So careful on the language, but of course, if someone is doing some questionable activity, then there could be a thoughtful dialogue about that. So that makes sense. And then the last thing I wanted to ask about is the appointment process. It seems like we continually strive to improve and streamline that process. The Education Committee, the way that we designed it, is very complicated, and I'm not going to suggest that we change anything tonight, but I think we really need to think about, do we still need that structure for the Educational Committee? And we can talk about that in the future. I also would like to know about, during the application process, how do we identify family members of council if they applied, or spouses of spouses applying at the same time, or maybe one serving and the other's not, that kind of thing. Can we capture that during the application process? And most importantly, can the council be flagged if somebody has a spouse on a committee to help us in our appointment process?
So we do have an issue that we uncovered as we were actually updating this policy. We do have that question on our application. It exists already.
Okay.
What we what we have experienced this particular time is the member properly, an applicant properly disclosed that their spouse was a member of a committee. They listed the wrong committee, and staff did not follow up on that. So we have internally. That's our internal process. There is a checkpoint. The information was listed. We do have a situation where we have a couple on our Parks and Recreation, and we intend to talk to those members. One was appointed one cycle, the other was appointed a second cycle. I believe Eric is checking applications to see if there were interests of them for one of the other committees that we may be able to bring that to you to consider to move one of those members. And I believe the Parks and Rec meeting is tomorrow? No. Next week?
Later.
Okay.
So I would recommend letting them choose who wants to serve before just moving one of them to, recommending one of them. One's more passionate about the Park and Recs, perhaps, so. But it sounds like it was an honest misunderstanding. It's just how do we make sure that things are flagged in the future? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we through with social media?
I want to make sure everyone has a chance on social media before I recognize Councilmember Body again. So, did you have something else to add?
Yeah, I don't actually understand why it's a big deal if a husband and wife are on a committee.
It's just a rule you have, and you could change that rule. I'm speaking off the cuff, but I think that might make other committee members uncomfortable if two people are aligning to advocate rather than it being 11 objective people.
But two people,
it's your rule. You could definitely discuss changing that rule, but it is your rule, and so we're just trying to abide by the rules you've established.
Okay, I appreciate that. I guess I'm just saying that we might want to look at the rule and see if it still makes sense.
Okay. I think we're done with social media.
So, we did mention there were a number of other miscellaneous updates. Just want to be, very transparent to you. Throughout the document, we took references to boards away since we have committees. Just cleaned up our consistency of use of words and then wordsmithing for clarity. We did clarify that the department head is a support role, but is not the staff support person, but provides guidance and information of topical interest to many of our committees. Sometimes you have both a staff liaison and a department head at our meetings. We cleaned up our open records section just to eliminate some really old things about authority to broadcast meetings. We take care of that. We also didn't cite the law since we don't do that anywhere else, and did just clarify that a member's application is part of the public record. If we would get asked for that information, we have established a practice where that information is not being attached to agendas, so it's just not readily shareable. But it is a public record should we request that, get a request for that information. We also talked about council's role in establishing ad hoc committees and a recommendation that you would be the ones to establish the length of duration not only for the committee, but for the committee members serving on that committee. Again, I mentioned we clarified that a quorum is a majority. We've also added some things that we did use successfully during some of our hybrid meetings or when we were having some attendance issues, that if there's not a quorum and there are 4 people that come to a meeting, it's very discouraging for them to sit around and wait and not have enough people to conduct a meeting. And we have successfully allowed people to talk about things as a group. They just don't vote and act, and then it affirms at a next meeting. And they have appreciated being able to advance their business in that way if they need to. But then we've also clarified that if there are 3 consecutive meetings without a quorum, that we would do some other things to address the ability to try to get back to a quorum. That the obvious one would be additional recruiting or coming back to council to talk about that issue to try to determine if there's a more significant underlying issue. We talked about the annual work plans. We were really pretty rigid and strict about January, and it's just not feasible to do that for some of our committees. Really positive that they want to talk about and their work plans, but it takes a little bit of time. This year it's a little bit later, even more just because of COVID, and that's when we were just pulling things back. But it's still a priority. We've just taken out some of that very restrictive language so we weren't in violation of our own policy. And then making those meetings with council optional on behalf of either one of the bodies. Attendance, again, emphasis on active participation by members, not just coming to a meeting, and that you may suspend attendance requirements due to the declared state of emergency. I believe this is what Mayor Pro Tem Johnson was referring to earlier. And then we have been conducting that spring recruitment on a regular basis, so we added that. Again, a clarification that we don't fill vacancy seats for a remainder of a term. That is exclusively a planning and zoning board issue, so we took out that reference. They're 2 years from when you appoint them. That we will be, and Brandon mentioned this with the conduct and the social meeting, when we make changes to this policy, there will be timely notification and training for our members, and how we notify people that you have not selected, how their applications are kept on file, and verifying that they are still interested if a new recruiting cycle comes up. We've left in that hybrid meetings and other accommodations are allowable and available at council's discretion. Last section, again, is the training, and Brandon covered this. We do this annually. We host meetings as well as now record and follow up with email. And then if there would be some significant policy updates, it would also trigger a reorientation and training of the policy revisions. We're also going to actually add this to our website so that as people are applying, they see these documents and guidelines before they've made their application, or at least commensurate with that. And any one of your staff members that worked on this policy is happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions for staff on this item? It's a very comprehensive update. Okay, I think we asked our questions as we went along, and I guess we have nothing on the miscellaneous.
Thank you. I've made note of 2 things that as council talks in a roundtable or something you may want to reconsider, have not been put forth as changes. That would be MPAC, composition, and then potentially, what was the second?
Allowing multiple family members on one committee.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Family member composition of committees.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
We'll be back in 2 weeks.
Okay. At this time, we're scheduled for a break. Would council like 10 minutes or 15?
15, please.
15.
I think a 15-minute break is appropriate at this time. We're going to reconvene at 7:41. Thank you very much. Town manager, ready to reconvene? Okay. It is 7:41. We are reconvening. At this time, I'd like to recognize Kimberly Conley, our sustainability coordinator, to present the next new item.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Hope you're doing well this evening. Happy to see you again. So tonight I'm here to present a brief on the adoption for the Master Sustainability Plan. My intent is to review the items that council provided for feedback on May 24th and specifically share with you what has changed on the Master Sustainability Plan. So, as you know, just as a real quick debrief, all of the work that we've been doing, right, the data collection, the analysis, the stakeholder engagement, all of that has resulted in the draft Master Sustainability Plan that you received a couple of weeks ago. It has resulted in 11 goals, 16 strategies, and 35 actions. And you can find these items on Appendix D, page 64 of the MSP Master Sustainability Plan. So specifically what I wanted to point out to you, based on council feedback on May 24th, which one of the action items that was on 2028, we moved it to 2023. And that action item is evaluate opportunities for developer incentives to increase and/or save the tree canopy. So we moved that from 2028 to 2023. The member who brought that to our attention felt that it was imperative that we make a move on that sooner rather than later, so we adjusted that accordingly.
Is that something we can show as part of the presentation or bring that up?
Sure.
Just so it helps our audience.
It's going to take me a second. Sorry, I don't know how to get there quicker.
There's a lot of good content in there. Don't be sorry.
Apologies. Of course, it's at the very end. There we go. Okay, so this is the goals, actions, and strategies, page 64, and then the following page is 65. See if I can make this a little smaller. There we go. Okay. So I don't have and I'm not sure I have a pointer, but so the last item on 2023, evaluate opportunities for developer incentives, that used to be on 2028. So we moved it to 2023. As a result, we had to shift a couple of other items around just to kind of even out the workflow between the years. And that included evaluate surplus policies and implementing surplus policies. So we had to move those two items to different years to accommodate moving the evaluation of incentive or developer incentives for tree canopy. So those are the changes. Those are the specific changes that we made to the timeline.
And to be clear, are these fiscal years or calendar years?
They are fiscal years, yes. Okay. Any questions that I can answer for you at this time? I believe the plan is for me to come back on June 28th for you to adopt the master sustainability plan at that time, unless you have changes or recommendations that you would like for me to work on in the interim.
Appreciate you making that change for us. I'm not seeing any other input at this time.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate all the hard work and for the committee and there's a lot of staff in putting into this, not just you.
There certainly is.
So thank you all very much.
Thank you for taking the time to review it. I know it's a lengthy document, as you saw, so thank you.
Good. Almost feel bad that we made her wait till after the break. So at this point, we're at item 13, future meetings and events. Got a few things to read here. The new Smart Shuttle stop begins tomorrow, Wednesday, June 15th, at the Morrisville Aquatics and Fitness Center, and it'll begin taking passengers to and from the MAFC 1301 Morrisville Parkway. Smart Shuttle runs 7 days per week, and residents can schedule a free ride online or by using the Smart Shuttle app. Every Saturday morning from 8 a.m. until 12 noon, the Western Wake Farmers Market offers healthy and fresh food, goods, and now live music from small and local businesses. Putting Around Town is a program that places a temporary disc golf basket at a different park on a rotating basis to give people the opportunity to practice throwing discs so they can work on their mid-range or putting. The basket is at Church Street Park right now until June 30th. Plans are being finalized for a temporary course to return to Cedar Fork District Park in July. And now you don't have to wait until July 4th to celebrate Independence Day in Morrisville. Join the town of Morrisville on Sunday, July 3rd from 4 till 9 p.m. for Morrisville's Family Fun Festival. The event will be held on Town Hall Drive with live entertainment, food trucks, roving entertainment, face painters, caricature, and balloon artists, family-friendly games, prize giveaways, small business representation, and information and updates on town projects. This year, the fireworks will conclude the evening. Attendance is free, but bring money for the food trucks and the games. Please note the fireworks will only be visible from Town Hall Drive. Also note, due to a number of factors, there will not be a 4th of July pancake breakfast this year. Also, later in that same week in July, Big Chief will play at the second Music in the Park event of the summer on Friday, July 8th from 6:30 p.m. until 8:30 p.m. Big Chief is known for playing music for all ages, and their set list ranges from authentic New Orleans music to older country and rock, classic music from the 1950s, and children's songs. So for that event, please bring a chair or blanket for this free concert at the Healthy Food Hub and enjoy a meal at the local food truck that will be on site for the evening. As always, for a full listing of events, please see the town calendar at www.townofmorrisville.org. And at this time, we're at council comments. I'd like to recognize first Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, followed by myself.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no comments this evening.
Okay. Councilmember Rabati will be right after me. I would like to wish my father a happy 84th birthday. It has always been easy to remember since it was always on Flag Day. I'd also would like to wish congratulations and best wishes to my daughter Katie and her husband Matt, who got married this past Saturday. May your life together be full of life, love, and happiness. Now I'd like to recognize Councilmember Rabati, followed by Councilmember Rao.
Thank you. I would like to congratulate the Cawley family on the marriage of TJ's daughter. It's a wonderful thing, a wedding in the family. We had one this year myself. And I'd like to thank all the council members that joined me at the Panther Creek graduation, especially those who were not too overcome by the whole situation, to snap some beautiful pictures of baby Grace Rabati, who graduated on Monday from high school. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, exciting time, lots of graduations. Councilmember Rao, followed by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Well, first of all, congratulations to the Cawley family. Flag Day is today, and also I wanted to thank the staff and everyone for the great Juneteenth event. And I really want to thank Leslie Haney for some of the lectures, particularly the one on the Civil War, which we attended, about the colored regiments and how they helped the Union win the war, was fascinating. So just want to thank her for that. Commencement was great at Panther Creek, and I just want to tell the kids and the parents that these students have been so resilient during the pandemic, and it's just so great to see them in person at the convention center where all these graduations are happening. I look forward to their bright futures. My final comment is just a reminder that tomorrow is the 10-year anniversary of the Deferred on Arrival for Children, or DACA program. And there's about 35,000 dreamers in North Carolina, but there's also a lot of documented dreamers. And documented dreamers is something that I know Councilmember Garamello is aware of the situation, with many of them being from the nation of India. So you have many people on skilled visas, and their spouses and children are on H-4 visas, and many of those kids are aging out. So they're either having to pay a higher out-of-state tuition for schools, and even are facing having to leave the country and being separated from their families. So I just want to encourage all of us to kind of monitor the situation. And Deb Ross is sponsoring some legislation called the Americans Children's Act, which is part of the DREAM Act. And so I just wanted to bring this up. Tomorrow, June 15th, is the 10-year anniversary of DACA. But we have a lot of people in our own region that are affected by this. So I wrote about this on WL TechWire. So if you're in the public and you want to learn about the issue, just go to WLTechWire.com and you can read my blog. But I'm looking forward to the rest of the meeting tonight. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, followed by Councilmember Garamello, please.
So I just have one comment, and I'm actually going to reference U.S. Representative Deborah Ross. I had a meeting with her today, and I really want to give her a shout out and a huge thank you for taking the time out of her day. I'm wearing my purple today because this week is Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Week, and today is our Advocacy Day. So there were hundreds of people across the nation that were meeting with members of Congress today, and I had several meetings today, but Representative Ross took the time to actually meet with us, meet with her constituents from District 2, and I appreciate her time very much. Of course, the other meetings I had were with staff, which I don't want to diminish at all. Those are incredibly valuable. And as I always say, it's our staff that gets the work done. So I know firsthand how important the staff up in D.C. is to their representatives and senators. And so I thank all of them as well. But just want to give a special shout out to Representative Ross, who is always very responsive to those of us back here in District 2. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Garamella.
Yeah. I echo Anne's sentiment about the graduation. It's always fun after several years to go see in person my mind is in the convention center because Enlo graduation starts at 8 o'clock. So, and my son went to Enlo, so it's always more emotional. On the other end, I just wanted to say the International Yoga Day is on June 21st. The Indian Embassy is celebrating on June 18th, if I recollect. Martha, even the town is celebrating, right? The date for it? For the International Yoga Day?
I'm sorry?
For the International Yoga Day? The
International Yoga Day?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
When is the date for International Yoga Day, the celebration that Parks and Recs is doing? Okay, that's fine. So just wanted to be aware because during the COVID time, a lot of people fell back on yoga for their mental health and other issues. So that's all from me.
Okay. Excellent. And our social media has lots of great stuff, especially the Parks and Rec department about upcoming events and yoga events and things like that. One other small thing, our Little League team from Morrisville is actually playing in Wilson on Friday, the 8 to 10-year-old kid pitch. So that's the first time we've been involved in that in a while. So we're very glad that our Parks and Rec department and our Morrisville Little League is getting out there again. I played Little League growing up, so it's really great. Town Manager, any comments from staff?
International Yoga Day is being celebrated on the 21st at Morrisville Community Park.
Okay, thank you very much. And what time?
4 to 5 p.m.
Okay. Any sign up required or just show up?
Sign up.
I think we generally just bring a mat, bring a towel, and bring some water. It's really nice. Thank you very much. And thank you for reminding us about that, Councilmember Garamella. We're at item 15 now. We have 2 work sessions tonight to discuss 2022 Advisory Committee work plans and the Town Center Development Plan. Eric Smith, Town Clerk, will facilitate the first work session. Mr. Smith.
I'm having some microphone issues down there, so I'm going to facilitate from the podium today. Okay, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council. We are here today to complete your annual Advisory Committee Work Plan Review. As you know, the work plans were developed to seek to enhance the collaboration and communication between you, our Town Council, and our advisory committees. This review is going to give you the opportunity to endorse, amend, and provide vital feedback that's going to assist our committees in just reaching their goals and efforts throughout the year. Once I compile the feedback that you provide, I'm going to meet with each committee and I'm going to present the feedback for their consideration and possible implementation into their work plans. Work plan development. Each of the committees annually, starting in the past year, they're asked to develop 3 to 5 broad goals. We do give them some reminders to guide their goal development. The first is that you're going to have the 3 to 5 goals, and within each goal, you're going to have some type of actionable items or some milestones so we can have metrics to gauge item completion. We also remind them that the goals should be broad. Don't get too specific. Don't get too bogged down on specifics. With your broad goals, you can kind of break it down and address the milestone and actionable items once you finish the broad goal development. The third key concept that we remind the committees of is that the work plan should be viewed as a fluid document. Things happen, situations arise, COVID happened, various changes make you the need for flexibility within your work plan to happen. So just because you put the goal down at the beginning of the year doesn't mean 6 months from now that goal isn't going to transition or change into something else. As Town Manager Page mentioned earlier, due to COVID related issues, we were delayed in the development and review process, but we're trying to catch up on that now. And as opportunities for engagement, for specifically community engagement, were pretty limited in 2021. Council may notice that some of those 2021 work plans were carried over for completion in the 2022 work plans. For the review process, I'm going to present the work plan, and then I'm going to open the floor for council to discuss the work plan and provide feedback. Council previously received the work plans as an administrative report, and they also received them as part of this agenda packet. So I'm going to read the broad goals, and I'm going to provide a summary of the actionable items. I'm not going to read through each one because that'll end up taking us all night. And also, I'm going to attempt to answer any questions you may have regarding the broad goals, but since the committee's thoughts or opinions were the ones that developed them, I may not be able to give you their exact process as they develop the goals, but I can come back at a later time once I discuss it with the committees and get their response to any questions that you may have that I can't answer. Were there any questions before we get things started?
I think we're ready.
All right, Mayor Call, if you could assist in facilitating the feedback on calling on members of council, I think that may help make the process.
We'll do that after each committee.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Let me zoom in a little bit too. All right, the first committee to review is the Public Safety Advisory Committee. They carried over 2 goals from 2021. The first being to attend or host public safety events and distribute public safety information. And the second broad goal they developed was for community engagement and outreach. Part of their action steps for the first goal, attend public safety events and distribute public safety information, was that post-COVID, they wanted to attend 6 events per year. You may have noticed this table at Springfest that Public Safety had on May the 14th, so they did take care of that. They plan on appearing at the Independence Day celebration, Public Safety Day, and they do want to still attend 3 HOA meetings. Regarding community engagement and outreach, they do want to do various engagements, such as engaging with the Neighborhood Watch, doing vacation checks and home safety checks by the police and fire, and engaging with apartment complexes and HOAs. And I'll open the floor for any feedback or comments regarding the Public Safety Advisory Committee's work plan.
One thing I'd be interested in knowing if they thought there would be capability to work with the communications department to have a little video presentation of if they just video one of the HOA meetings, because we have so many HOAs to attend. 3 is great in person, but if we can share that with HOAs and let them watch a video, we get a lot of that information out more in an engaging way. So that would just be one idea. Anything else for the PSAC committee from the council?
I'll just make a comment. I love that they're including the Ready Wake in their plan. I think that's a great resource, and I worry that everyone's not knowledgeable or signed up for it. So I appreciate that they're going to include that in their efforts, along with everything else.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think our communications department is really good about amplifying the Ready Wake out there. So hopefully a lot more of our residents are already subscribing to that too. Any other thoughts or suggestions on this committee? Yeah, Councilmember Garamella.
So, Eric, they meet every other month, right?
That's correct.
So the question I have is, if an HOA wants to bring up an issue, and I think Chief Andrews always says, come to the Public Safety Advisory Committee and talk there as the place to do it. Is there any way from HOA point of view that they can take inputs? Because what happens is, does it have to be presented on that day, or can they take inputs before? It becomes hard, for different scheduling issues or something. They miss it out, and then again they have to wait 2 more months for the meeting. Because public safety is critical, and if there's a portal where we take inputs like public comments that you read out if an email is sent, some kind of a mechanism for that, because just from HOA from Breckenridge, we had to wait 2 cycles before we could get it in person, or basically a Zoom call,
Yeah,
at that time.
What I can say to that is that I have experienced an instance where an HOA or a member of the community had a pressing issue that they wanted to discuss, but they couldn't necessarily get to the Public Safety Advisory Committee meeting. So typically what I've done in that scenario is I would direct them to the proper channels, whether it be the police department, fire department, and then we would engage with the PSAC kind of once that process on the back end has already started. So,
yeah, that's true. But they usually say present it to the PSAP first, and then obviously they will work their things. But how can a person who has issues not wait for 2 months to bring it up? Is there some kind of a queuing system that they can? They put it in and it can be read, or something can be done.
There's not, but we could look into developing that process, and they could also either contact myself or possibly the chair or the staff liaison via email to provide that information and their concerns, and it could be distributed to the committee. But as far as the committee actually discussing it, barring having another meeting added, we'd have to try and develop a process related to that.
Yeah, because
But we can look into that.
that would be a good one so that people don't forget and then it doesn't go into like a four-month cycle before
Exactly.
their voices are heard.
Like a cue for their concerns, and they can
Yes.
be briefed on it at the next meeting. Understood.
Town Manager Page?
So depending on the issue, if there's a pressing issue, that is when staff should be contacted, not the committee. Because the committee is typically going to take a presentation from a group and refer it to staff to review anyways.
Yeah, no,
So I guess it really depends on what the issue is and how
So-
pressing it is, but that's what staff's for.
Yeah, so the issue I wanted to bring out is the gray marble parking, where that was an issue we had expressed to Chief Andrews at the time, and she said, yes, I hear it loud and clear, come to PMAC, like Public Safety Advisory Committee, and talk, then we will, interdepartmental, from Public Works and others, we will work it out. But she wanted that as a forum to be told, even though we had told them a couple of times before. So, and if we forget that meeting, then you're losing that cycle for 2 more months. That's kind of.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the scope and remit of the Public Safety Advisory Committee as a former chair and vice chair of this committee. I know that this committee does not meet on a monthly basis, and so, with Councilmember Garamella's concerns about timeliness of feedback and so forth, although they're not conducting direct town business, there is a lag sometimes in between meetings. With the goal and action steps of attending 6 events per year, I think that's a little aspirational. I think it should be 3 to 6 events maybe to start out. I don't see National Night Out on their list. National Night Out being, we've kind of changed the format to be the police are at different neighborhoods throughout the town. This actually is a great opportunity for those members of the Public Safety Advisory Committee who live in some of those neighborhoods or at least nearby to participate. And so I think that they should consider adding that event to this list. Public Safety Day is also appropriate for this committee. And I actually envisioned, like at the larger events like Springfest and Independence Day, there would be a table with multiple committees. There'd be like a committee section and not just public safety has to have a table and someone has to be responsible for setting it up. We should just have a section with all the committees so that they can even engage with each other, because there's a lot of complementary interaction that can occur, as well as with the public to encourage them to participate as well. So that first objective, I think it's great, but let's set a softer goal and add that National Night Out. The community engagement and outreach, I'd like to see them maybe come up with a strategy for one of those items, promote neighborhood watch, vacation checks and so forth. Are they going to film a video message, from the committee? What format are they thinking about promoting? It doesn't have to be heavy, intense kind of thing, but just hearing a little bit more would be exciting. Thank you.
And do you mind if I add one thing? You brought something to my attention that I should have stated previously. While those broad goals, some of them were carryover, those goal action steps is not all inclusive. So while I think in 2021 they did have the National Night Out listed, but for 2022 they just wanted to change it up and put some different events to attend. So you may have some ideas of stuff that should appear here that's probably kind of in their mind to do, but they just didn't want to carry it over from 2021. They kind of wanted to at least make some subtle changes to the work plan. But I do believe National Night Out was on the 2021 work plan.
And I appreciate that feedback. I really think because public safety is aligned with both the fire department and the police department, they should have at least some level of participation. They don't have to be at every neighborhood on that National Night Out, but it'd be really nice to have some level of outreach at that event.
Understood.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything for this one? Because I have another suggestion and I've already gone once. Also, I don't see CERT mentioned at all. There's a natural alignment there, so maybe have a CERT member come to a
CERT is
meeting.
not an appointed body?
It's just another opportunity to interact and help each other.
How would you,
Encourage one of them to attend a
Acknowledge-
CERT meeting, or having the CERT president come to one of these PSAC meetings and just explain what CERT does. Because we'd love to have more people in CERT. And the Public Safety Committee would be a natural group. Not direction, just an idea.
right, I think, I like your idea, because I like CERT, because obviously I know a lot of members of CERT. We need to maybe put it in the goal action steps of find complementary committees and interactions, e.g., Parks and Rec, CERT, that kind of thing.
Sounds good.
Gotcha.
Okay. Hopefully you got some good feedback on that, and we can move on to the next committee.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I did. All right. All right. The next committee is the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Advisory Committee. The first broad goal was facilities expansions and improvements to include the basketball court, specifically the lighting, a dog park, and support implementation of a disc golf course. Their second broad goal was to enhance awareness through education, celebration of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This was just a goal to support the creation of various different ethnic cultural events throughout the town, Pride Day celebrations, using different tools such as art, food, and music to engage with the community regarding various cultures. The third broad goal is community engagement and education on existing parks, recreation, and cultural resources. Just basically, such as you suggested earlier, attending those events, having a table set up, attending those public events just to provide that information about what parks and recreation can actually offer, and participate and support the expansion of the stewardship program. The fourth broad goal was expanded youth, family, and senior programming and activities, research and support additional youth and track out opportunities, and expanded senior programming within the senior center. And the fifth and final goal was to partner with the communications department to share information in these events and programs. And once again, these were carryovers from the 2021 committee work plan. So some of these goals, the action steps within them have already been accomplished, and these are new action goals or milestones within each one. And some are just carryovers from 2021 that are still pending completion. And I'll open the floor for feedback.
Yeah, I see a lot of these have already been created, so that's wonderful. Any suggestion or thoughts on the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources? I think we've gotten lots of feedback in the past, and this group has really ran with it, so we really appreciate them for that. Okay.
All right, moving right along. Kind of falling in right after the Parks and Recreation, we have the Senior Advisory Committee. They did come up with three completely new goals. The first was related to community outreach for the Senior Advisory Committee and the Morrisville Senior Center to be represented at town events, kind of in line with what you already previously suggested, having a table at events for all the committees. Outreach to different ethnic groups, cultural groups, and research possible options to rent the Senior Center for senior-related activities. The second broad goal is related to programming. They kind of want to expand their social programming post-COVID, luncheons, having special events at the Senior Center, just utilizing that space. It's a nice space. Why not use it? They do want to host at least one open house event and get back to planning those senior trips that they love. The third broad goal is related to information resources and information distribution. They want to develop more informational resources on site for local senior programs and services, whether it be a cork board where people can post their senior services or events that are taking place throughout the town, whether it be some type of digital engagement to allow people to see the senior activities that are taking place throughout the town. They really want to put an emphasis on that. And they also want to hold some type of informational programs or seminars related to seniors. A lot of these, the goals that they developed, what I did notice is that their goals were seeking to engage with the senior community that may not be active on the actual committee. There's other senior population within the town of Morrisville, kind of bringing those seniors in, even if they're not actively engaged as a member of the committee. And I'll open the floor for questions. And once again, all three of their goals were new goals because they did accomplish the goals from 2021, so they developed all new goals.
Okay, I just got a couple of thoughts. One thing is that we can really concentrate on accenting the fact that it's 55 plus in Morrisville for seniors, because make sure that people my age realize that all of these are for me as well, which is nice. And are they having their senior activity committee meetings at the senior center at this time, or?
I believe they are at this point.
Okay, yes. So that's good. If there's any opportunity to maybe have one of those at Preston Point or at the new facility, the 55 plus facility that's coming at the top of Town Hall Drive. I know that's a bigger ask to ever take it off site, but that meeting people where they are. And I know there's already a lot of programming at Preston Point, but I think that it's good carryover to try to get that community aware of what we're doing at the senior center, for example. Any other thoughts about the Senior Advisory Committee and how to better use the Morrisville Senior Center, anyone? Councilmember Scroggins-Johnson. And then you.
I love the senior center. I've been so happy to see that they have a dedicated space. And I know the senior committee members are the reason we do have that space. They've been very vocal, and they want to expand their programming. I've heard some comments how they want to expand their social media presence, and I think there's been some effort about that. But they're always decorating, apparently. They're decorating that center with seasonal kind of, spring, summer, fall, winter, and event and holiday-driven decorations. And I was just wondering if that is part of the Senior Advisory Committee effort, or is that part of the town staff's effort to support that activity? Because I think it is a Senior Advisory Committee effort, which is fantastic because we have some very talented seniors in our town. And I just want to make sure that if we're able to support some of their supplies, because none of the other committees really consume any supplies, but if you're decorating, that is a cost that some people might be donating, but after a while, if it becomes an expected thing, we should look at helping to support that cost.
Okay. I'll document that, and then staff can look into it.
Great.
Councilmember Garamella, please.
My question is more about how can we integrate community garden into this? Like, a lot of seniors like to do gardening and other stuff. We have the smart shuttle picking them up from their spot, and we have Town of Morrisville as one more spot too. So there could be opportunities where they go to the senior center, go to community garden, have a bed or something they can enjoy and then come back. So trying to see how to keep them engaged other than inside that room, what other external venues to do. And also this would be a good place where bonding between different generations, like young kids or, can come, present their music. I've seen during the events that they did, but ongoing where they can perform and have events so that these guys can get their voluntary hours, whatever they need to. And then at the same time, it is like, music to their ears, they can enjoy and relax. Something that both parties are enriched with that collaboration. Just a thought, because it's not a goal of the Senior Advisory Committee, but overarching of how it will make them, feel better.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
So I'm just going to make a comment. I think the Senior Advisory Committee and the Parks and Recs Advisory Committee have some really good goals and action steps identified, and I just appreciate their work and the effort that they took to identify these goals, and I just applaud them on their efforts. And especially the Senior Advisory Committee, I love this informational resource goal. They had an information fair just recently that was fabulous. I did not think I would be there as long as I was. I was there, I think, the whole time, because I walked around and chatted with all the vendors that were there, and there was a lot of really good information for our seniors there. So anyhow, I just applaud them on their work and their goal setting.
I'll pass that along also.
Yeah, the Senior Committee and the Morrisville Senior Center staff are really doing a good job together. I think that's really obvious to all of us, and they're being very creative and innovative. So anything we can do to support them, let us know.
Gotcha. Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move on to the Performance Measures Advisory Committee. Keep scrolling. Let's see. PMAC does have two goals that we're continuing over from 2021. The first, they still want to complete a comprehensive charter review, reviewing the committee's history, reviewing the scope of the work, and reviewing and discussing the committee's name as it applies to the scope of work or their desired input. The second goal of the PMAC committee is committee engagement, presentation, and participation. You may notice this is more of an internal goal. One of the first ones that they have listed here is that they want to engage better internally, like with the questions during the presentations, making sure that the members review their information prior to the presentation and participate in the discussion. They also want to seek for increased participation and engagement through additional meetings versus having that meeting every other month. And they want to review and assess the progress at the end of this calendar year. So the PMAC doesn't have that community-facing aspect that a lot of the committees have. So you'll notice that these goals are more so internal on how they can better operate internally and provide those needed recommendations to council.
Any comments or thoughts for this committee? Okay, they're going to undergo a comprehensive charter review, obviously. I think this committee, more than any other, might really align with our strategic plan and the outcome measures from that plan. They might help staff to put those in such a way that they can be communicated to council and really transparent and accountability to see how we're going. But I think their best job right now is to take a look at the charter and decide what they think they're capable of. But that's something that I'd be very interested in knowing, if they'd be willing to take at least some of those outcome measures and give us a report on them. Anyone else? Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
So just to clarify, Eric, so they are going to do this review work by the end of this calendar year, and then
the review and assess the progress related to the committee engagement and presentation participation by the end of the calendar year.
Okay, gotcha. Not the charter review.
No, not the charter review. Just for the internal, making sure that members are properly participating, that they're properly prepared for their meetings, and that they properly engage. They're going to assess that at the end of the calendar year.
Okay.
Did our strategic performance manager want to weigh in?
Sorry, thank you. Eric has given you a very comprehensive overview. We know that PMAC has had some challenges with recruitment, with meeting quorum. Both myself and Town Manager Page have had some lengthy conversation with the members. They have had 2 new members appointed, so they are talking internally amongst themselves and working with staff to determine how they can work best together to meet their goals, both amongst their work plan that they have established and also within their charter. And then within that charter, they are taking some time to look at it to, as you said, really determine what is it that they can accomplish, what is it that they would like to focus on. And so that's some of the things that they're going to be doing. And to help them better meet some of those goals, they are now meeting monthly rather than bi-monthly, just because they've missed a little bit of time due to COVID and lack of quorum.
And we're very glad that 2 new appointees occurred. And where are they at as compared to the 11 full body?
I believe they are at 6 members right now.
So that's
And
that's
they will have
challenging.
one term end in July, so then they will be at 5.
Okay, so we'd all like to still continue to try to recruit for that committee to help it be more successful and productive. Okay, thank you.
You may want to stay up here. Well, no, we have one more before we get to, before we get to public education.
You're not going anywhere.
Okay, the next committee is going to be the Environment and Stormwater Committee. Once again, they've developed some pretty robust goals, similar to the ones that they developed in 2021. The broad goals remain the same, but you'll notice that the action steps within each goal have kind of been changed or tweaked a little bit for 2022. The first broad goal was education. They want to provide access to learning and educational opportunities through various outreach efforts surrounding sustainability and environmental initiatives, supporting the stormwater outreach and Creek Week, continuing to support the Monarch Pledge, as we touched on today during the proclamation, developing a program to recognize those sustainability champions throughout the community, and evaluate and monitor March through June additional implementation of the Recycling Participation and Contamination Reduction Program with DOC NC. The second broad goal is related to strategy. They want to identify up to 3 correlations between MESC initiatives and other relevant plans throughout the town, whether it be staff-based initiatives, committee-based initiatives, and other committees. They want to find those correlations. More specifically, they're going to plan on attending meetings or watching the recordings of other committees just to see where there's areas of collaboration, cross-committee collaboration. These committees are like the Parks and Recreation, Smart Cities, and even participating with the community garden for the planning to plant pollinator plants. There's a lot of P words throughout these presentations. The third broad goal is to support sustainability, alignment with the Master Sustainability Plan, which you guys saw that presentation of earlier. This would include the Green Day planning and various volunteer opportunities, sharing those success stories in sustainability. It's not enough that you implement those programs, but you have to discuss it. Discuss those successes once you finally have a successful implementation. They also want to research the Tree City program and that application. The fourth broad goal is to collaborate with up to 3 peer towns to better understand the best practices and improve upon their programs. They want to engage with those peer towns and the advocacy groups, basically as a learning opportunity to see the challenges they may have had, discuss their successes, discuss their failures for possible implementation within the town of Morrisville. And I'll open the floor for any feedback or comments related to the MESC work plan.
A little tongue-in-cheek, it's going to be hard for them to find 3 pure towns anywhere in the United States because we're doing pretty well. Anyone have any comments for the MESC committee?
No, they're a busy committee
Yeah,
too.
they're going full bore. Really good stuff. Okay. Thank you very much, Eric.
All right, here we go. The next up is the Morrisville Public Education Advisory Committee. They also have the 3 carryover of the broad goals from 2021. The first was to establish an advocacy plan. They want to collect and review information related to upcoming redistricting to better understand the impacts to Morrisville students and families, understand which schools may be capped and where the proposed it's those P words again, the proposed overflow schools is to be, suggest ways to enhance partnerships for education and/or advocacy programs, explore advocacy education programs and ideas, and enhance those partnerships with local businesses seeking learning lessons for current students. The second, let me zoom in a little bit because that's kind of difficult to read. The second broad goal is related to collection and dissemination of knowledge, determine and gather information related to school events. And the committee did have a question. Aaron, you can chime in if need be. But as you're aware, the Wake County School Board does post their meeting videos and their minutes online fairly quickly after the meeting takes place. So they wanted to know if there was still added value in the committee members reviewing the meetings and providing the summary of those meetings to Town Council. if that was still something council saw the value in or the need for.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
I think there is value in looking for certain kind of actions of the Board of Education, such as redistributing our students to different schools when new schools come online. We know that there's going to be an early college high school and then a Morrisville High School. That is an example of activity we would want to have early information on to help provide opportunities for feedback, being advocates of the town, letting the committee be advocates, and of course, our school board member getting the feedback they need in a timely way. So I think there are other examples where the school board does impact Morrisville families, and it's probably more than just the reallocation, but we should at least think about what kind of actions the board is taking that we would want to have more information versus have them go through every meeting all the time looking for impact. So if we can narrow that down a little, I think the committee would still be able to give us the value.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, followed by Councilmember Rabadi.
So I'm gonna echo a little bit, but I need to clarify what the question was too. I think the following what the Wake County School Board does is critically important, and there are issues that are very important to Morrisville. We have a new middle school coming, we have a new high school coming. So following those kind of issues and the redistricting 100%, but your question was to report to council on those issues.
I think I explained it, but I'll let Aaron provide
I was
a
going
little
to say, I don't think they need to
clarification.
report to us. It's for them and for their work that they're doing. I don't want them to have to report to us on things. So I want to make sure that's kind of clear too.
And I think that's the clarification they're seeking. I think there was some maybe confusion or misunderstanding originally that there was a desire from council that the members of the MPAC review these meetings and essentially report out to you. And then there was further discussion that, well, the information is readily available on the Wake County School Board site, and the information that MPAC would be summarizing and providing would then also not be timely. So just to make sure that they were giving you a value-added tool and resource, and that was still something you were needing, they wanted to be sure they were meeting your needs and providing that information. I do believe that many, if not most, of the members do still review, listen to those meetings, because again, it's very valuable and contributory to their work.
So good. Yeah, let's clarify this because I don't want to unduly burden them with more work than they need. I mean, I think it's our responsibility, each one of us, to be on top of these issues as well. So I think for them, it's more of what they need to do as a committee. I don't think they need to report up to us, quite frankly. That would be my take. I can, and I know somebody was attending these meetings in the past too. Probably this was pre-COVID, but I'm sure it was pre-COVID. But I'm not, for me, and we can all weigh in, I don't need them to feel that they have to be there in the moment following an issue and attend in person. I think, to look at an agenda, to see what items are there and what's happening is important for their work. I don't know if I clarified that enough, but.
Okay. Councilmember Rabadi, followed by Councilmember Rao, please.
I wouldn't mind a heads up from the committee if something that's directly relevant to Morrisville is on the agenda and is going to be discussed. If everybody else feels that we don't need anything from them, then that's fine with me also. I'm just saying that, maybe proactively rather than reactively would be another way to go with that. I have a question, though, about the data collection group desires specific outreach and engagement with WCPSS board members. I think I would like to have a little bit of discussion around that, since if a committee member approaches a school board member, I think that the default assumption is going to be that they're speaking for the town and that they are town representatives, because they are. So, I just would like to maybe get some clarification around what exactly what they want to talk to the WCPSS board members. Like if they're just seeking information, I don't care. But if they're going there with a position of advocacy or something like that, I'd like to discuss that further.
So I can actually provide a little bit of insight on this item. So this committee started formulating their work plan at their very first meeting in January. And then if you'll recall, at one of your February meetings, there was discussion about the capping of Parkside and the, I'm losing the term for the overflow school of Austin, if I'm remembering correctly, and I apologize if I've misremembered that. So we had some conversation. You had directed staff to formulate a letter to Wake County Public School System expressing those concerns. Then, as you'll remember, staff at a number of levels was also engaged with further conversations with Wake County Public School. I believe some of the council members were as well, to have some additional conversations to really understand how those processes work. And that's really what some of the committee was getting at. They wanted to understand how those processes work. What was the data behind that? Subsequently, staff was also able to report back out to the committee after we reported out to council about the discussions and all of the information that was gathered in those conversations with Wake County staff and with Wake County Public School Board members. And that has satisfied the need of the MPAC members. They do feel that they have a better understanding at this time. But originally, they were having some desire to maybe have some of that meeting and some of that conversation. We asked that they allow staff to start that work. And that is actually what, in fact, was able to take place.
Okay, Councilmember Rabadi, all set? Okay, Councilmember Rao, followed by Councilmember Garamella.
I like the idea of a town hall style meeting with staff and residents, and I would like to see, as the committee continues work on establishing an advocacy plan and collecting and disseminating knowledge and the community outreach, I think it's very important for the public to also know that they should be emailing their concerns to the advisory committee as well, so these concerns can be vetted, particularly with schools. I mean, over the last 5 years, we've heard a lot of residents weighing on schools, primarily schools being overcapped, primarily decisions that we've made for rezonings and how it impacts schools. But I think it would be helpful to also have these kinds of complaints or just observations relayed to this committee. So I don't know, maybe having a town hall style meeting with the residents and the staff would help it. So by the time, people are always going to email us because we're the elected officials, but I think if that information can be disseminated to us in a more organized fashion, it might be easier for us to go through, some of these issues. So that's just an observation.
Okay, Councilmember Garamella.
Yeah, my question is more about engagement with the community and the people. When my vision at the time when I proposed this was, how can they be helpful to the community in terms of, I can give you one example. The summer started, people are looking for volunteer opportunities. And we talk about, these are so high level, explore advocacy, education program ideas, how to combat underage drinking and social media professionalism. I want to be realistic here. What are they really trying to do there? It's not going to trickle down to the community by doing those kind of things. The things which will trickle down is Let's Serve is one website. You register people want hours for volunteering. We need hours from the town point of view in street cleanup and other things. How can we engage where they can come to a place, okay, these guys have some voluntary work. I know we have the other committee where the youth leadership and all those things, but I'm looking where I'm literally struggling. Where can I go to within Morrisville to get those hours? And I don't see any of those kind of things getting done here, other than being watchdogs and trying to see how we can, what is going on with the Wake County Public School. I think Chris Haggerty is doing a fabulous job. He has been very upright of the things and been communicating with staff and us as an individual council. So they are doing the best they can do. But I want how the kids can get benefited from this too. You know, so I'm looking for you, Erin, if anywhere that this can be plugged in, because otherwise, as me as a 16-year-old kid in the house, how can I leverage, you know, if I have to come and ask, okay, what can this committee do for him?
I promise I'm not trying to steal Eric's work session. This committee, I can speak to it as their staff support liaison. I'm intimately familiar with the work that they do and the conversations they have. They do have a desire to be involved in the community, and they do have ideas for community programs and projects that, as you know, things just take time. It's one of the conversations that they have right now ongoing. Randy Little, our Parks and Rec Director, is scheduled to speak with them in July. There is interest from the committee to partner with Parks in some upcoming events. So we really just have to explore what that looks like and how that would go, because we just don't know that answer at this point. But I don't want it to seem as though they're not trying to meet maybe some of that need that you're expressing. I think it's just going to take a couple of steps to get there, if that helps.
Yeah, that's fine, because I'm looking from the kids in the house. How can they benefit from that lens? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's exciting how MPAC is sort of expanding from pure advocacy to more service-oriented community building, and to do that in concert with Parks and Rec would probably be pretty good. I'd just like to piggyback on something Councilmember Rao said, is it possible that whenever we receive any email to the town council email address about school stuff, that Eric, who I think also receives those, can also forward it to the MPAC, or to make more public the MPAC committee email. So if you want something that the town council to know, it's towncouncil@townofmorrisville.org, but there's also an education committee email that goes to all of those members as well. So do we want to make it easy for our residents to reach out to those committees more directly, or would that open a can of worms? So that's just something for staff to think about. Everyone's gotten a chance to speak on this committee because we're all very passionate about it. I'd like to recognize Mayor Pro Tem for a second comment.
So I just want to make sure that I also say this. They have lofty goals too. They have some fabulous goals, but I love under establishing their advocacy plan, that B, actually there's two Bs, but the second B, to explore program ideas, and that's kind of tying into what we've said, to combat underage drinking, social media, professional and mental health priorities. I think that's fabulous. That's how they can offer programming directly to our citizens. And if you're going to work with Parks and Rec, that could be somehow a tie-in to some of that. And then the other item under their second goal, collection and dissemination of knowledge, where we talk about school events, including magnets. We have, Wake County School System is a wonderful school system and has many opportunities and options for parents, but it also is very confusing for a new parent or somebody who's new to this area trying to navigate versus where they came from, where they don't have as many options. So I really applaud them on those two items. I mean, all of this is important, but I just kind of wanted to pick those two out and applaud them on their emphasis on those two areas. I think that will be very helpful to our residents, for sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. We can move on to the next one. Thank you, Ms. Hudson. Appreciate you.
Well, we are moving forward to the final committee for tonight to review is the Smart City Steering Committee. These committee goals are guided by the IT staff as they relate to the Smart City Initiative. So you'll notice that the goals, the broad goals and the goal action steps are direct carryovers from 2021 because the committee is constantly working on these initiatives. They take a little bit more time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this one a little bit different. I'm going to go over the goals, but then I'm also going to give you a quick update of where they currently are since the goals are all the same at this point from 2021. So the first Smart City Steering Committee goal was public education and engagement. Educate the community on the Smart City program by creating a video to include talking points and to discuss where to engage with the community. The committee was previously, at the time of the development of this work plan, was working on the educational committee. They've collaborated with the communications department regarding video development and various methods of community marketing. So they should be implementing this public engagement fairly soon. The second broad goal is to identify community challenges, identify the most pressing challenges within the community, discuss innovative technology solutions to address those challenges, go through the strategic plan to review it and identify areas of correlation there with challenges, and encourage participation in surveys to provide feedback. They did participate in a workshop on March 24th to discuss the pressing challenges and possible solutions to those challenges. And they reviewed the Morrisville Strategic Plan and the Smart City Strategic Plan to identify areas of focus for action and future discussion. The third broad goal is the Smart City Initiative Review. They wanted to review the current initiatives, adjust when necessary by adding or removing and adjusting timelines. At this point, they've reviewed the mobile app developers and they've selected a vendor for Phase 1 mobile app discovery and a vendor for Phase 1 development. And just like all the other goals, that goal is still an ongoing effort that'll take place throughout the year. The final goal, which was one of the staff's goal, would be completed by IT staff in collaboration with other Town of Morrisville staff, was grant exploration. And they want to explore the various grant opportunities as they relate to smart cities, and this one is an ongoing effort also.
Would anyone, any suggestions or comments on this committee? Councilmember Rao.
Well, I mean, I'm just really excited about the progress of this committee, and I think that to the extent we can continue to educate the public on, the opportunities and then also where their successes have been. Because I can tell you right now, just around the region, everyone's talking about Morrisville, how far we've come in so short of a time. And there's so many cities that haven't even begun this journey, right? So I just think, I commend the IT team and the residents who are serving on this committee. And I just, I'm really excited about the grant opportunities. I hope we can do more of that, which we're winning a lot of awards. So hopefully those awards will lead to more grants. And I like the cross-pollination with other departments, like, sustainability. So, just keep up the great work, and, this is really great. So, thank you.
Councilmember Rabadi.
Yeah, I think the grant exploration is a really good idea, and I would like to see that added to the goals of the other committees. I think that's something that where they could really take a load of work off of staff is for all the committees to look for grants that we might be eligible for and to do some of the initial legwork there. I think that'd be great. Like broadly speaking, I'm feeling like the action plans are sort of schizophrenic in the sense that I'm not really getting a strong sense of that the goals are being driven out of what we're expecting the committees to do. Like, overall, like what is our purpose for the advisory committees? You know, I feel like that the committees are more looking at this in terms of what do we want to do about smart cities as a committee, more so than what is Morrisville's overall plan for smart cities and where can the committee plug into that and provide advice and insight and expertise. And I think that because like as you go over, like if you go back to the MPAC one, that's a good example where like these goals are all over the place, you know, like an advocacy plan. And I'm thinking to myself, do we in fact want the committees broadly, not this committee specifically, but broadly, is advocacy a committee in the scope of the committees? You know, and is like what role should community outreach and engagement play? Like all the committees really should have the same outreach and engagement plan because all of the committees should have the same goal in terms of public outreach and engagement, you know? So I don't know, I'm feeling like it might be worth kind of taking a step back and just going back to the beginning and seeing like what the role of the committees is intended to be, because I think we're seeing a little bit of scope creep here. This one just caught my eye, but they're not unique in the fact that I think we're seeing some scope creep.
I will add that upon the initial development of the work plans, we did also include the charter and a charter review. So the goals that you see here should have some alignment to that committee's charter. For instance, the Public Education Advisory Committee, one of the duties within the charter is aligned to the establish the advocacy plan. I think one of the problems is that within each charter, there's a listing of duties and tasks, and they've kind of selected this duty to address, this duty to address, and this duty to address. So it kind of looks like they're all over the place. But the vast majority of the committees, the goals that they've developed have some type of alignment to the charter, because prior to developing the goals, if you remember, council did that charter review. I presented the updated charters. We went over that, and we attempted to find some type of alignment between the charter and the development goals. But I definitely understand how it can kind of seem all over the place, because they're kind of picking various tasks listed within the charter and kind of using that to develop the goals without taking it verbatim from the actual charter.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I think that pretty much wraps us up. One thing I'd say is that it's been said, show me your budget and I'll show you your values, but all of these kind of roll up into a different department, and then so they can make recommendations into those department requests during budget time. So I just want to let them know in general, it's my opinion that making budget requests can be part of their work plans if they have suggestions about where to allocate resources, because that's, I think, one of the overarching goals of the committees is to help us allocate resources. I think that not only informs us, but gives us a little bit more boots on the ground, because they're hopefully a little bit more specialized on each of these different subject matters than we are. That's why we're asking them to dig in a little bit more. So that's just more general, just so hopefully they're hearing that.
And do you mind if I go back to Councilmember Abadi also? Would it help if we highlighted the areas of possible alignment to the strategic plan or to the charter within the actual work plan goal? Would that kind of help?
I do think that would be helpful.
Gotcha. We could just, it'd be pretty easy to put, this is the charter task and this is how it, this is how it connects.
and if there's, for some reason, a charter item that they're not taking action on currently, I think it would be helpful to have it listed as a non-functional item or just to just to provide transparency into, are they working on the things in the charter that we actually need and want them to work on?
'Cause we can develop, staff can develop some type of process to integrate that
Okay,
within the
that'd be
work
great,
plan.
thank you.
Yeah, it's almost, just to piggyback on that, there's the charter list items, maybe those should be on these slides also, as not yet, essentially, part of the charter, but not actionable at this time for for resource management or whatever.
And I think there also may be a disconnect, because if you remember the last time we did the review, we reviewed the charter first, and then we reviewed the work plan, so it was probably easier for you to see the areas of alignment when it was directly consecutive after each other, so. Any other comments, feedback?
Looking for any other final comments on this one, other than a huge thanks to everyone, staff, and all of our committee members. They're volunteers spending a lot of time trying to help us be better informed and make better decisions.
All right, thank you much.
So thank you very much. So what's next steps?
The next step is going to be, I'm going to provide this feedback to the committee. So I'm going to meet with each committee, try and convey your thoughts in messages to them, give the thanks to the committees for their hard work, and we'll discuss they'll consider the implementation of your feedback into their work plans throughout the year.
If it's not too heavy a lift, if you can just sort of parse out this recording and just, each of these was about 5 minutes per committee, and just send it to them in advance so they hear it right from us, if that helps also.
Yeah, we can look into that. Yep.
That'd be a cool little thing to be able to provide to them, so they don't have to go searching for it. Eric, thank you very much. Really appreciate your work. I know it's a lot of time facilitating all these committees. We good to go right into the next item, everybody? Yep, okay. So Brandon Zudema, our Deputy Town Manager, will facilitate the next work session, which is Town Center Development Plan.
Yeah, real quick. Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I think I can speak for all of the team here to say we're excited to be back with the Town Center again for you. So we have with us tonight Singh and several of their teams, some folks from Jay Davis, and of course DFI, Eric is here, and myself. And so to give you an idea of what we're going to try to accomplish and just give you a quick refresher, last September we signed an MOU with Singh upon your approval, and that MOU was to work together to ultimately develop a development services agreement, the document that would have the in the weeds, exactly what we're going to do for Town Center, who's going to be responsible for what, when it's going to happen, and all that sort of thing. And then, of course, detailing that plan overall, as well as funding for the first two phases, Phase 1A and Phase 1B of the Town Center project. So the first deliverable in that is a development plan. So that's what we're here with you tonight for. And then, assuming that we get endorsement of this plan in a couple of meetings, we would then begin additional work, or continue the work, I would say, towards that development services agreement that will have all that detail you'll ultimately need and want to see before a shovel potentially goes in the ground for Town Center. So as a reminder, the MOU calls for this development plan that we're going to present tonight. It's intended to allow both partners to agree to the overall concept for the Town Center and the general pro forma for the project, not the exactly what business is going here, what parking space is going there. That will come. But tonight is, again, a follow-up on the concept. Singh has listened very closely to what your feedback has been over the last several months, and they've included that in this update. We've worked a lot with them. We've been meeting at least every other week since well before September to make sure that this is ready for you to see tonight and to potentially endorse in a couple of meetings. Again, this identifies the major components and the amenities that will be included, and it's really at this point a commitment to continuing to work together towards that development services agreement. But should you elect to endorse this development plan, which is what we'll ask of you in a couple of meetings, there is not yet a financial commitment by either party. That will come later. Both partners will agree to that with the development services agreement. And then as a quick reminder, that development services agreement, we anticipate give or take 90 days following the endorsement of the development plan. That will, again, fully delineate the steps and responsibilities that are required to execute this concept, this development plan. And that will take into a lot of different task areas that include, not necessarily all, but include site investigation, analysis of existing conditions. For example, we have a pretty good idea of what's there, but we want to make sure we know exactly what's there so we know we can build what's being recommended. Development potential, who might be a partner in this in terms of from Sing, and not a partner is a strong word, perhaps a business or someone that wants to come in and participate in this project through working with Sing. Site and infrastructure planning that would be in concert with our vision, council's vision for how this is going to work out. Again, that's one of the key components of doing this public-private partnership, is that you maintain control of that vision. I will tell you, I believe firmly that Sing has that same vision, but you maintain the ability to determine what ultimately goes there by having this PPP. Again, the development services agreement will have a preliminary plan for the ultimate phase development. We'll know better by then what phase 1A will be, what phase 1B could be. We'll also have a plan for replatting of property boundaries. We're getting a little technical now. Of course, the financing there, both private and public sources, that additional public investment is what we'll talk about. Agreement on terms for property transfer within the project. We're going to share a little bit of that with you tonight. And then any entitlements for the town center master plan. So that is what will come. We anticipate if this were to be endorsed in July, that would be in the October-November window of coming back to you with that full development services agreement, which is likely to be hundreds of pages. It's a big, thick, detailed document that we'll obviously spend some time in when that comes around. So for tonight, the reason we are here, Sing will provide council with their updated concept plan in an open session, and then we'll ultimately move into a closed session to discuss their financial pro forma for the project. Want to highlight just a couple of changes that have occurred since the last time you've seen this. A larger town green, which I'm hoping some of the smiles are in response to that. Better defined town center amenities, an extension of Foxglove Drive as a private drive, and we'll show you more of that very specifically on a map. And then additional parking spaces. We certainly heard you talk about concerns in that regard. So again, Sing has just, I think, done a phenomenal job in hearing you and in taking steps to address those concerns. We're going to give you the opportunity to discuss the concept and pro forma with Sing. You'll certainly be able to ask questions. Once they're ready, I'm going to bring Sing to here so that they can present from here. Eric and I are going to sit at the table in case there's anything we can sort of interject with, or if you have any specific questions of us, and we'll go through this. Again, you'll be able to provide feedback on the development plan. Again, this is a presentation tonight. We anticipate a brief on the 28th where we'd come back with any questions that need to be answered, any modifications that you might request, and then July 12th would be the potential opportunity to endorse the plan. And again, we've already talked about a public-private partnership. This is authorized under North Carolina General Statute, and this plan and the pro forma have been vetted by our town attorney's office. I've worked very closely with Frank on that. Sing's attorneys have also reviewed that, and the DFI staff have all reviewed what we're proposing tonight conceptually and with the financial pro forma. So as I mentioned, we have met at least every 2 weeks. Again, refinement of that design and concept, Sing updating their financials, determining what the town's additional public investment will be, and we've also had a third-party appraisal of the land that would be transferred to determine what that value is under these very specific circumstances where we intend to develop a town center, and Avi and his team will be able to speak a little bit more to that as well. Sing is already being proactive in reaching out to potential independent retail and commercial tenants. Not going to read those to you. And they have worked a lot on the development of the town green concept. Again, we conducted a survey with Morrisville residents and businesses that we have shared with Sing. They have increased the scope of what would be done potentially with Healthy Food Hub. They'll show you that, including preservation of the education garden, which I think is probably important to many of you. Again, a new layout and some really exciting opportunities for the farmers market. And then again, we'll talk about the Foxglove extension and some reworking of the area of the Healthy Food Hub. Any questions for me before I turn it over to Singh to begin their presentation?
Seeing none. Welcome back.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Brandon. Good to see everyone. It's been a few months. Avi Graywall with Sing Development again. With me tonight is folks from the team. Todd Rankin with Sing, Monty Graywall with Sing, Jacob Surmer with Sing, and Joseph Michael with J. Davis Architects, who we've been fortunate to have on our team and been working. I know we get a lot of accolades, Sing, for working on the plan, and Brandon, but you see a lot of Joe's work that we regurgitate to you that he spends a lot of time on, and fortunately for us, he was previously with the Raleigh Urban Design Center, so he's got a lot of experience in kind of urban design, which is what we're doing here. As Brandon mentioned, we've been meeting every 2 weeks. A lot of great feedback from him and Eric and the team and various other departments. We had a great big meeting with all the different departments a few weeks back, planning and Parks and Rec, the engineering department, the police department weighed in quite a bit on some of the things we're doing here. And as he's mentioned, we've met with some various retailers who, it's been a great surprise to us. We've had folks reach out to us proactively, and we've reached out to others, but, very excited about this project and very excited about being in Morrisville. And so, some of the things that we've listed, very specifically, ice cream shops, coffee shops, pizza, brewery. TJ, appreciate you connecting us with that. That was a very exciting meeting for us as well. And then with all that, we've had some yoga and fitness to burn off some of these other indulgences. And then we've, a cultural institution that we've listed on here, and it was a public meeting yesterday with Wake County, and Marbles Museum is still very interested in being part of the center. I mean, I think there's a lot to be defined on in what regard that'll be. And if you ask me now, I really don't know where that's going to land, but it seems to be moving in a positive direction still. And then with that, we'll move on to the concept planning of it. And this is kind of a slide that Brandon shared with you guys previously back in January, I believe, where the solicitation was of the RFP back in November of 2020, and then what our original program was late last year, and then the final column there is our current program. So you can see that a little bit has changed. We've kind of defined a minimum square footage, that 14,000 square foot for that flex building in Phase 1B, and a lot of this will be, will clear in the concept plans and the slides to follow. And we can go back to this one if you want to. But you can see that we've increased our parking spaces, and then with that, we've come at an increase of linear footage of road, and then biggest increase here is we picked up a little bit more than an acre of public open space here. And then the development strategy is basically following a lot of the guidelines set by the town, and we've had some back and forth with the planning department to kind of confirm some of our assumptions here and get their feedback. Todd, you want to come up and help walk me through the pretty stuff?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. It's nice to be back in front of you here. Yeah, I get to do the fun stuff. Avi gets to talk with the retailers, which is fun, and deal with the financials, and I get to deal with all the pretty pictures. So, what you're looking at right in front of you here is the original program that you saw a few months back, most recently probably in January. And so what we've been doing over the last few months is we've been focusing on some key areas, and one of those key areas in this new current program is the expanded town green. Flipping back to the original real quickly, you can see that the way that this parking is now configured, existing out there, this parking lot goes east-west. It's only one-sided, so this was expanded, and it was coming out on the left-hand side back out to Town Hall Drive. Well, we were looking at this, and we said, how can we bring this a little bit more together? We didn't like how the parking was sort of bisecting the farmers market and the town green. So working with Jay Davis and Joe, what we did is we reconfigured this, and you'll see on the list, we reconfigured Foxglove, and we pulled this over. So this is going to shift from the location that we were showing before and where it's currently at in the existing condition built currently. But what that does is it creates more of a drive in, more of a road that comes in with parking on either side. And then having the parking clustered here, it gave us the opportunity to pull the town green and the farmers market together. But in doing that, we did take away a little bit of the direct connectivity to where the vendors' vans park and just work out of the back of. So I'll get into that in just a second on another slide here. But what we did here is we took a little bit closer look at the square footage of each of these cottage retail structures here. We reduced the size a little bit, but there's more of them. So the overall square footage is really the same. We kind of right-sized the way that those we were representing those. So in the center, you have the large town green, the item number 10 here. The 13 is like a pavilion, that would be more the farmer's market pavilion. 12 here is the education garden, and we decided to keep that in its current location. And then 14 is this entry plaza and playscape area. 11 is number 11 here is that's the stage. And working with some of the staff, they pointed out that we needed to take a look at how it was oriented from before and deal with the setting sun and how that's coming in. So we took a look, we repositioned that, and then item number 15 is just an open gathering space. We're trying to leave some of the trees, and there'd be some walking paths in and around there. So that's really the majority of what we've been focusing on. The rest of this, the majority of this, were the multifamily building and the retail and this flex space, commercial, and the townhomes. That's more or less remained unchanged. We've been playing around a little bit with item number 3 in the footprint for that retail area. So that's changed a little bit, but the major focus has been on expanding and making improvements to the overall town green area. So on the next page here, specifically talking with the farmers market, so what we wanted to show you here is the kind of purple squares are the vendors' tents. And you can see some examples here with Morse Square and the Durham Farmers Market. You more walk through those vendor stations, and the light blue dots are the vendor access points. So vans, trucks, cars could pull in. This pathway that meanders through here where the tents are, that would be wide enough and it would be constructed so that vans, vehicular traffic could go through there to set up, but they would not remain in that location. There could be some setup if we wanted to in the parking lot along some of the areas here over by the playground. That's a possibility, but that's not what we really thought would be the best. So we were looking at doing something like we're showing you here, and then expanded. If this farmers market grows, which we all hope it would, we could take this section of Foxglove and we could close that off. And we could close it off at Carolina Street, and we could close it off right at where this parking lot more or less ends. And this section of Foxglove would all be pedestrian only. So you'd still have this area where the vendors could set up here, and you could have an expanded area out in this direction here. So what we also wanted to represent here is just to give you an idea of what this town green size is. So this dotted red oval is about 2,000 plus minus capacity. And we gave you just some examples here in Fayetteville Street, and then the Rose Garden Amphitheater in Raleigh, and then Morris Square. And Joe, I believe this area is relatively close to the same size as Rose Garden Amphitheater. Is that correct?
believe the comparison was closer to Morse Square. Morse Square is a little bit larger. I think Morse Square has a capacity of around 3,000, so this is a little bit smaller than that.
Okay. Thank you. So then what we had Jay Davis do was to do just a little bit of massing studies. So what they did is they took their plans, added a little bit of height to these buildings. These are realistic heights to what we were proposing on our plan, and just kind of spun around to give you an idea of what this looks like, really focusing on the town green and what the structures would look like around the town green. So this slide here is our phasing plan. So we have phase 1 and phase 1A and phase 1B, and you can see the black dotted line outlines all of what would be included in phase 1A. So in phase 1A, we would have the multifamily building with the parking structure, the retail plaza outside of that, all of the town green would be included in 1A, and then the reconfiguration of the parking area, as well as this section of the extension of Foxglove. Phase 1B is the red, and that is the flex commercial with the townhomes, and it is also the cottage retail. And that's really, we did it this way only because some of that is going to be a little bit in flux in how it gets developed as everything else comes into play. This could very well be part of the phase 1A, but we thought for this purpose, we'll dedicate it to the phase 1B, but it could evolve and pull into the phase 1A. This slide here is the parking that we are proposing. So specifically expanding this area, you can see in these numbers the parking spaces. So we have 17 parallel, 18 parallel spaces, 35 parking spaces here, 20 in this section. 34, these are dedicated for the public safety for the police station here. They do need some secured parking as they are bringing people in and out of the police station. So we needed to make that a secured area. And then what we also did is we took this section here on the north side of the police office, and we have an expanded parking area there. So you can see that in this area, right now there's a total of 81 existing parking spaces, and then overall we have 140 now. So 34 of those are the dedicated for the public safety, but 106 are total public spaces. We did look at a couple of options of some 45-degree and some 60-degree parking spaces along Foxglove, and those netted some gains of what we have right now is we're net gain of 25 public spaces in the current plan where it's parallel. And if we went to 45-degree parking, it went to a net gain of 40 public spaces, and 60-degree was a net gain of 44 public spaces. So that's an option too, to reconfigure what that parking along Foxglove might look like. This just gives you an idea of what it is we would be demoing, what we would be taking out that's existing now. So the red line represents what's there now and what would come out. So you can kind of get an idea of what we're doing. Right now, the entrance off of Town Hall Drive is right here. We would be moving it just a little ways over to the west. And then this parking that's there behind the police station now would remain, and we would expand that over on the west-hand side. Any questions on the plans?
Councilmember Rabadi, please.
Yeah. Yeah, so love. I mean, honestly, I love the original proposal, and this one's even better. So really great work. I'm happy with the addition of you to the team if you're the one that did the town green. So the Foxglove parking, I mean, I'm not trying to tell you your business, but North Carolinians parallel parking on a curved road. I'm the only person in North Carolina that knows how to parallel park. So I think it would be advisable to explore either 45-degree or 60-degree parking in that area because, like I've seen it, it's bad. But I specifically wanted to ask about the difference time-wise between Phase 1A and Phase 1B, because originally, you mentioned the Marbles Museum, so I guess we're talking about that now. So are they okay with being in Phase 1B? Like, is that does that meet their
And again, it's very preliminary with them, and I think yesterday's meeting with Lake County would just kind of introduce the idea to, I guess, propose funding to continue to explore working out here. And so everything that we've talked about to date, because we got more or less of formalized what we want to do with the multifamily block and the town green. So yeah, everything to date is kind of where the flex building was going to go. And depending on, I think we can all agree if something grows with that idea, that whole block where the flex building and the townhomes go could all change. They could take the whole block. They could take half the block, a quarter block. Who knows? We really don't know yet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just really amazing. I love the idea for the farmers market. Like, I think that's just, like, I can see it in my mind that that's just going to be so fantastic. I'm really excited about it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and it's, not just the farmers market. I think that slide was, and I think Todd mentioned it, but it was also to represent, potential concerts, festivals, different types of events could happen out here.
Going to have a Comic-Con out there.
Okay, I'm next. I've got a couple of questions on what we've seen so far. Can you bring up the slide that has all the numbers for all the different amenities? There you go. Quick question on number 11, the stage. You indicated that 15 is a grassy area. Is the stage going to open to both sides or only to the front?
Joe might speak a little bit better to this, but I think it would be really open more towards the front. On this plan here, you can see it does go through, but if you have certain concerts there in the equipment that's up there, there is the back to the equipment, right? So I think it's going to depend a little bit on what the event is, but was that your thinking as well?
Yes, I mean, it was intended to front the town green, but, I mean, this is early stages of conceptual development. If you wanted to develop something that was kind of more, have a round stage so it could have, smaller events that perhaps are in the wooded area, that's all possible as well, so.
Okay, I didn't notice that it was all the way through before, so I thought it was a solid building. So that's why I was asking, because down in Holly Springs, they have a stage on the back of their public facility. So I'm trying to understand why we have the pavilion if we have the stage. What's the purpose of having both those structures?
Well, the pavilion is really, you might see in a lot of other communities that the farmers market has a pavilion, so vendors could set up underneath there. So that was one of the reasons. It's also something that we could hold. There could be some classrooms, like if Marbles did want to do something outside, they could use the pavilion for a classroom. It could be something that somebody holds a private party on. Some communities have a pavilion where it's a first come, first serve, or a rental basis where they could have a family event under that pavilion, and they really don't need a full stage. It's just a small structure with some covering for different types of events.
I hear you. It seems like it's pretty much the same structure, just two of them. So I'm not sure if we have a need for all those things. I want to make sure that we're making best use of all the space. Sure. So I'm just curious about that, if we could have a little bit more details, because I don't see how you make a classroom there as compared to being not just on the stage. It's just open space. And I didn't notice any of the farmers market tents being set up in there. For right now, that might be big enough for all the tents, or not. For the one that shows the parking spaces, the 34 parking spaces for public safety, you indicated that that's secure. Is that going to be fenced in, or what do you mean by secure?
It would be a fence or a masonry wall, something like that. That would be it would be gated, but we've talked quite a bit about it. It would have to look attractive, so that it didn't look like a penned-in yard or anything like that. But we were thinking it would either be a fence or some sort of a masonry wall.
Yeah, I mean, more than likely, probably some sort of masonry wall. I mean, we don't know what what kind of masonry would look like. I mean, kind of some of the things we kicked around is that it could be a masonry wall. You could put like living plants on the side of it, or public art on the side of it. But it's something to make it look attractive, not cyclone fence with barbed wire or anything like that. It would
Okay.
have to be attractive.
Yeah,
Especially
that would,
right there at the entry of the.
that would be my concern too, and 34 seems like a lot. And I wasn't aware that there was a need, but you mentioned earlier that you'd talked to police about this a lot.
Yep.
So I guess this is really coming right out of the police department, the need to have some kind of secured area.
Brandon could probably speak.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please.
So as we've looked at this, what we're really doing is changing the use in this area. Sorry if that's really loud. So, right now it's a parking lot that really does not get any non-town use with the exception of the farmer's market. And so we're changing it from that to, although Foxglove is likely going to be a private drive, it still has the potential to get used, and there's still going to be a lot more traffic coming in and out of there to access the town green and to access the town center as a whole. So sort of two concerns there. The primary is that prisoners are brought to that area. And so as we see more and more people that we expect to be there, we don't want the prisoners being interactive with citizens, residents. And then we also want to make sure that they don't have the idea that, they might have a different way to go somewhere. It might think that, hey, there's a crowd, I'm going to go into it. So part of it is about officer safety and custody of prisoners and not interacting with the public there. And then the other aspect is just with a lot of people coming and going through there is protecting those police vehicles from someone maybe wanting to do something silly in terms of trying to get into one and take any items that might be in that vehicle that we don't want in the public's hands. So it's early on. We don't have a firm concept of, what that secure fencing or wall might look like. We're talking about that, again, clearly in terms of what does it look like and how does it mesh with the town center, and certainly cost is a consideration. But the number is coming from talking with Chief Acosta and his staff as to making sure that they have ample space. That could be reduced slightly, but we want to make sure they have space to secure their vehicles.
Okay, I'm just trying to make the best use, because we're going to have, even with this additional parking, I hope that the cottage retail really drives a lot of people here.
Correct.
And 34 spaces seems like a lot. So for security, it'd be great to explore the idea of bringing prisoners on the other side of the building and having a masonry wall around. I know we don't want to change the inside. I know we enter near the witness rooms.
Correct. That's
So-
the other challenge, is not walking them too far outside.
So I'm just a little concerned about those 34 spaces and the appearance and whether or not those spaces could be more of a shared use. I understand the concern about police vehicles. I'm less concerned that people are going to mess with them. But I understand that police have a better feel for that. So those were my questions and things I wanted to share at this point about all this. So next was Councilmember Rao, and then Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Yeah, really, really good plan. Just a couple of insights. I've been, sort of getting around, looking at other downtowns. One, as I went to the Fenton and Cary, I was really impressed with the spacing and kind of design of the buildings. I really would encourage everybody on the council to go out there. Kind of like the way they laid it out. So it made me think of how we could sort of have an environment like that. The other thing that I was curious about was, as we look at, the retail, building out the retail, the thought of a food hall. I was in Atlanta at a really nice food hall a few weeks ago, and it just was amazing, whether it could be indoor or outdoor, but a really great way to sort of, find some very unique kind of culinary, restaurants. I've also been going to Box Yard, and I like the fact that Box Yard sort of, my wife was like, well, I wish we had something like this in Morrisville where it's open, you have music and different types of culinary events and things like that. So I just giving you some ideas of, how we would build that out rather than just having like, just a street with just restaurants that you walk in, something unique like that. So just food for thought. It's probably not the right forum, but I wanted to just say that if we could sort of build that into the design plans.
Appreciate it.
Wasn't sure if there's a response to that. Mayor Pro Tem Johnson, followed by Councilmember Scroggins Johnson.
So I love the changes, and I obviously love the fact that the town green is bigger now too. So I appreciate that. I just want to make sure, and I thought I heard you say this, but when you talked about the farmers market and kind of shifting them around a little bit, I don't want to make an assumption, but I'm going to say, assume you spoke with them about these changes too and got their feedback?
So if I may, Mayor Pro Tem, we met with them last week on some related issues. I gave them the general concept. I've not shown them anything because I don't want to show this to them before we showed it to you. But we will be circling back with them. We have a follow-up meeting coming up probably at the end of this month or early next month. And so we'll share this with them. And again, conceptually, they were interested in the concept. You know, again, we're going to hopefully open up them to a lot more folks that will be in this area for other events that are going on, other activities that will be going on. So we see this as advantageous. Their initial reaction was positive, and we'll take the full concept back to them now that you've seen it.
Okay, because the first thing that struck me was that currently they pull up in that parking area and they leave their vehicles there. They back in and then they set up their tents. So they have their, produce and whatever they're selling right there at the truck so they can constantly kind of load stuff. So that kind of struck me that that's not an option here, to bring the vehicle and leave it.
And I think we can continue to talk about that. As I think Todd mentioned, there is some possibility of that, initial road that sort of backs up to the open area that enters into. That's a possibility. Again, we're going to make sure that there's power throughout there. So there may be some other ways to look at that.
Okay.
But they are on our radar to follow up discussions.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. I want to make sure they're included in the whole process. And however all this parking and Foxglove ends up, whether it's a curve or I like to parallel park, by the way, so there are a couple of us. Sure you do. There are a couple of us in North Carolina. But we can close that all off for our events then. So even though the physical green area may be 2,000 plus people, if we close down all this parking and everything, we could have a couple of more thousand people here. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that was just the town green that we were showing before. So I think with this whole area filled, you're more than that, yes.
Okay, because we're talking about doing our July 3rd fireworks in this area. And we'll, as we've done in the past, close off Town Hall Drive where we get several thousand people. So some of our really big events we need to be able to accommodate several thousand people. So I want to make sure that's possible and we've not lost sight of that.
Right. I don't see why it would not be possible.
Okay. And then the only other comment I would make, thank you for preserving the education garden. I think that's really important. I love the play space, the entry plaza with some kind of a play space. If we could do like a spray, I know the details are to come. I know that, but I love that. I am not opposed to the pavilion and outdoor classroom. I actually think that's a good idea because I see that as a smaller, more intimate kind of venue than the stage. But I guess my only question is, what does the view look like from the circle? Because that I would think is a location that, the angle and the view of the green space. And I just wondered if you had any feedback on that or if you all had taken that into consideration.
Joe, you want to speak to that?
Sure. So, with that outdoor classroom, I think there are a couple of thoughts with placing something there. One is its location right across the street from the library, and that might be a nice additional resource for them as well. The other thing to think about is that this is almost like a front door as you're going around the roundabout and entering into the development. This is something that you will see. So there's an opportunity, and it's shown solid. It could be a lot of different things, but that it could almost be that front door, that sign that lets you know that this is the town the town center, and so it could function as that sort of purpose as well.
Okay. Okay, yeah, again, and then I understand the details are to come. I know we need to kind of take a leap of faith and then deal with the details down the road, but I do love the plan, by the way. It looks fabulous. I mean, it's a little different than the last plan, but better. So I appreciate that.
Councilmember Scroggins Johnson, followed by Councilmember Garamella, please.
Thank you. So it's nice to see you all again. You did expand the green space, and I was a big fan of a gathering space for our town. And several of the new enhancements that you provided allow us to grow. And I saw the alignment with both your phasing of 1A, 1B to allow our town to kind of embrace that new space, find new ways of repurposing. You know, right now we're thinking farmers market, but when you block off Foxglove, we can have a really nice big event that can rival Apex and, you know, all those other communities that have had and enjoyed their downtowns for years. So that is an exciting concept there. A few things, just random things that came to mind as I'm reviewing this is I like the fact that you have a stage and you have a pavilion, because although we don't know what that programming would look like today, I think we can grow into it. And I think with the right positioning, it's going to make a lot more sense. I like the proximity to the library. There's an opportunity to make an iconic, this is Morrisville kind of statement on the perimeter of that space. And that's really something we've desperately wanted to say is, here you are, your sense of place, something visually appealing, as well as a place you want to be. You know, let's just be in Morrisville. Okay, so the power for the farmers market's really important if we're going to remove their capability of having their vehicles right next to them, because they're going to need freezers and generators and all sorts of things that make magic for farmers markets to happen. So I'm sure that's in the works. I am from a state originally that had parallel parking on the driver's test. So I have a driver's license, which means I at least parked once parallel parking successfully. So,
We're from that state as well.
yes. However, I think to Councilmember Robati's point, you know, angled parking might be, you know, good. It's just a matter of, you know, making sure the width and with all the downstream impact on plans, you need to get a fire truck through there and with the parked cars and so forth like that. So just be, you know, as we get more detail, we'll be asking more questions about how we make that space the most effective and safe for all the people that live and want to play there as well. I like the phasing, and I like the connection to Foxglove. I think that's a really logical way to do it. With the police station there, it's good that we have our police right there, because that, I think the police department is going to expand and grow into that larger parking space as well. I mean, that is where our police department is today. And although we might not have 35 cars there, I think over time we could grow our police force, and we could grow the need for them to have more equipment in that space. So I, you know, we'll be watching, but it just makes sense that they want a more secure area as well. So overall, bravo. I'm looking forward to more about the Marbles connection as well. I know that's early, a very fresh kind of connection, but the town green is really going to revitalize this area and allow us to celebrate the town. So thank you.
Councilmember Garamella, please.
it's a lot of changes from the original one for sure. I have a couple of questions. The marbles, if at all, it will be in the building 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we discussed to date, but, it's building 4 or just, in that block.
Yeah, because when you were saying that something close to the pavilion, so I was looking at the distance between 4 and 13, it's not in their compound with the kids and other things. So, okay, all right. And number 11, the pavilion. How would the sound be an issue if you're having concerts for the neighbors and all these things? I wanted to be sure that acoustically it's not causing. We want events, we want coca booth type of thing, like people come and do concert. At the same time, we don't want complainers who are coming and complaining, saying it's a loud noise. The only person I know who has authority in the noise ordinance is the manager. She has authority to waive any of the ordinance, but my fear is like the sound will travel a lot. How would that be handled? As one thing, just think about it.
Yeah, no, it's a good thought.
Which way it will go, because we want it to be vibrant. We want people coming and having events and to do it. At the same time, not a nuisance to all the neighbors who are, including your townhomes and your apartment guys, like we went to Wilmington, right? And there was like noise, and as part of the Wilmington where they had this, what is it called? I don't know what.
Amphitheater there.
Amphitheater there, but they had already talked to and actually this is good because you're initially making all these things, so they had waivers from each apartment that there will be noise,
Yeah.
pretty much suck it up kind of a thing, pretty much what they had.
Well, I mean, the way we've looked at it, I mean, at least from the multifamily or the apartment side of things, is that you're gonna have almost this is kind of from above the apartments, probably this viewpoint here, but the people living on this side of the apartments are choosing to have that experience. It's going to be noisy. But
my thing is all across this new neighborhood, $1 million homes and single family and $600 townhomes.
Back in here,
How would they react to it? So that's just, or I like that concept. We need a gathering place. We need concerts. At the same time, how do we acoustically place the pavilion so that the noise doesn't go? So that was one. And I remember when we had this discussion last time, I think Money and others, where 13 was, you had some huge big monument kind of a thing, which was unique, to Morrisville or something. We wanted the wow factor, I don't see that in here because yes, they're coming in, but a fountain and Carrie that they walk through, I just don't get that feeling compared to what we had previously talked about. Like I said, oh, this is like a landmark for Morrisville, in that plan. So
yeah, I think that's as we've continued to develop the plan, like Brandon mentioned, our primary focus has been on the town green and parking and how it relates to the cottage retail. But we haven't lost track of wanting to have a public art and sculptures and integrating that as part of the town green. We just haven't delved deeper into that. But I think that's going to be an important feature. I think and Joe mentioned earlier, this number 13, it could be an iconic structure for the town.
Yeah, but it's not like people come and take pictures in front of a pavilion either. I wanted something where people can come, say, hey, if without saying they take a picture at the Carey place, Carey Fountain. Okay, this is Carey. It sticks right in. I'm not saying we want to compare it to them, but at least something iconic enough
that this is Morrisville.
Yeah, exactly. As a place where this is a cool place. Okay, I know it is Morrisville. Something like that. That would stick to the Morrisville area. So that's the thing. And then next to 6, we talked about some water feature or something like a play set. in the last time, I didn't see much discussion on that area, like retail plaza, like with some kind of a play for the kids there too, like with water or something. And I remember Money talking about it and you talking about it on that issue.
And again, yeah, I mean, we just haven't, that's largely stayed the same. I think that's still an option there in terms of like a fountain type of place. We've also talked about this number 14 as being more of a play structure type of area where you could have a splash pad or something, for children. Yep.
Yeah, because we already have Indian Trail, so we don't want too many parks there. So one splash pad would be a good, so that it's unique than the other ones. I like the plan. I think, and remind me of the timelines of 1A, 1B, because I'm not sure, how that phases into the timeline of the project.
And they do have that later in the presentation. If that's okay, we'll get to that.
Okay. All right, but overall, especially the town green point of view, it looks good. And this number 9, you said it's around 10,800 square feet. So how much are each one of them?
I think about 1,200. Yeah, about 1,200 feet floor plates. And if it's obviously
it's single storied.
Single story, I think. What we've done.
Is it a box, like a box yard style, or did you go away from that?
Well, I mean, I think that was kind of one of the inspiration images we've had before. As we've discussed further, we've talked about getting away from a box yard or container type of structure, but definitely like a unique type of structure.
So you think that 1,200 people will be attracted? Like, what can that 1,200 attract? Is it like a retail or a food place, or I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no. Again, we've been having discussion with ice cream, pizza places, a brewery might want to take, and I guess this is still conceptual. So that 1,200 could turn into 2,400 square feet. We could put 2 of them together or 3 of them together. It'll evolve, and that's why. To answer your earlier question, that's why we kind of kept it as a phase 1B. As we develop this plan, as we continue to reach out to retailers, we'll know more of what that space really wants to be.
Got it. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
So we've been all the way through once. I just have a couple more points. If anyone wants to say anything else, go ahead and put up your things. The Midtown Park in Raleigh, it's a sloped green space to make the stage more visible. Have you guys considered that, or will people in the back be able to see the stage?
But again, this is still conceptual, but
Right.
that's definitely something we've talked about.
Okay.
A more of a low slope to be able to do.
Right.
But it's it's still early stages.
Okay. I don't see any public restrooms.
That's going to come later in the presentation. One of the things we've talked about and now is a good time to, I guess, address it, but the Parks and Rec Department has reached out to Brandon that they're looking for more space, or they need more space. And so what we've discussed is that they could take 4,000 square feet, so likely 2 or 3 of the cottage retail buildings combined into one. That would be more of an interactive Parks and Rec type of space, and that would go through its own design process. But as part of that building, we would have public restrooms, and so that's something that we've continued to explore.
I think we've exhausted our questions at this time on this part of the presentation, so we can move on to the next.
Part of what we've done the last few months is continue to work on our parking counts, and so we looked through the UDO requirements for parking for all the different uses we have and what's already there, and we've talked to planning staff, and so with all the uses we currently have proposed based on the UDO, what's required is 297 spaces, and what's being provided is 709, and it's a little hard to follow. I don't know if we want to get into the weeds of it, but it kind of shows that there's a lot of a surplus of parking here that we're creating for any sort of event that would come come to this area. And so, if you guys have questions specifically to parking or how it relates to this, I'm happy to answer it. But we spent a lot of time on this.
Councilmember Garamella?
So this chart is excellent, but my question is, what is UDO proposed versus your proposed version of parking, right? The townhomes, 30, 48, is that street parking or is it like the garage in front of the garage?
For the townhome specifically, it's spaces in the garage and then a driveway space as well.
So technically, I would not even put that as, like, I'm looking if, like, the thing that appeals me is, out of the 709, how many are public parking? That is excess. Like where you're saying required 173, you're putting 323. So if the public were coming to Pavilion to watch something, how much parking can we conveniently say, yeah, you have, give or take 350 or 400 parking spots? Is that something that we can look that way to say that? Because that's what would attract people when they're coming in, right? Like, I don't want it to be, oh my God, I like the concept, but it's too much, there's no parking there, I don't want to go in there. So that's where, do your calculations.
No, I understand.
So that I'm looking from like a person who's trying to go to a park, to ensure, yes, at any point of time, given all those retail and some of the things, we still have 200-300 parking spots.
Okay, I think we're going to probably have to go back and do
Yes,
a
exactly.
deeper dive into the
so
calculations.
that would be attractive because with all these nice blows and whistles in here, but if I don't have the parking to accommodate the people coming in for the concerts or those kind of things, it becomes a moot point.
So just to make sure I understand, you want to know how many like open spaces there are total?
Minus the requirements.
Minus the requirements.
So you have already put in there, like, the 48 for townhomes will be used by townhomes.
Townhome users, yeah.
I don't really get into that. Like, so 323, is all 323 getting used by, or do I have any public parking that I can use it for?
Okay.
The library needs 49, so retail is 1717. So cottage is 18 required and 162. So what is that delta? So like, am I getting 145 spots there?
Understood.
So those kind of things, it would be good to know.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can put something together.
So like, are there really 400 extra spots, I guess is the question.
Yeah.
So that'd be good to know. Also, getting our smart city team involved in this, that could show live time of how many parking spaces are available too. I know that technology's out there. So that would help people to know, okay, there's plenty of parking at the town center, let's go on down. And that could help us direct people to shuttles and stuff like that for big events. Okay, any other questions on this part of the presentation? Okay.
And this is a similar chart that you guys seen back in January on what the anticipated public investment is. This is the original total that we had talked about back in January. Current totals right now. So the potential outlay for the town on this first phase is about $6.5 million, broken up between Phase 1A and Phase 1B here, and then potential future expenses from the town as well. So incremental tax revenue, and I guess, again, this is an estimate that we came up with, $328,000 in tax revenue. Annual lease of parking spaces, which you guys saw back in January as well. That hasn't changed. And then what's new is the lease of cottage retail space. And so that's the rent that we would potentially charge for that space, less the current lease amount that the Parks and Rec is using, which is, I believe, $60,000 a year.
And just a quick clarification, if you start to do the math there and think that the 68 isn't the correct number, that's basically because we're already leasing space for Parks and Rec on aviation. So that is the difference between what we're paying for space on aviation and what we would be paying in moving them to the town center.
Here's a list of the key changes from the original concept. We had an increased size of the, the biggest change here is the increased size of the town green and just the public open space in general. And then the increased linear feet of road for surface parking. And we have more details of that on the pro forma, how that's split between the cost of what it'd be to build a public road versus a private road, which is what the future Foxglove extension would be. And then the Town Parks and Recreation Administrative Office, Foxglove Drive is a proposed private street, and because we don't know where that masonry wall is going to be for the parking lot for the police office, and that kind of came later in our design thinking, and so that's not included in the cost currently.
I got a question.
Councilmember Garamella, please.
Yeah, if you go back, so you're saying Parks and Recs is taking 4,000 of the 10,000 square feet in cottage space. So that'll be a lot of parking from their side too, right? Because they had to park their cars and all kinds of things in there. So technically, it's only 6,000 square feet, which means 6
So
retails.
part of that is, as we've talked through the pro forma and how we work through that, is how can we contribute as a town and meet a town need at the same time. So this helps balance the need up front by us taking some of the space here rather than being in lease space somewhere else.
No, I hear you loud and clear, but
And I'm not concerned about parking spaces. There's not a lot of parking needed by Parks and Rec admin.
no, but the thing is, why cottage? You can use the other building, right? Because cottage area, the whole ambience of cottage area is to have, people walk through those areas where like pizza place or brewery or those kind of things. By putting, an office right in the middle there, you're taking away 4 spots of the cottage, or that could be used for more commercial use.
It could, but again, keep in mind a couple other pieces to that, one of which is the provision of public restrooms. So they'll be attached to that building to where they'd be accessible. Anytime there was events going on, we wouldn't have to build them separately within that area for people to use. So that's one plus for us. And again, I think as was described, this isn't going to be, I don't think, traditional office space. It's going to be made to fit in that area. And it will house Parks and Rec admin, but it also becomes a bit of a welcome center for visitors to town center. So I think that's a plus. And again, it's not necessarily a permanent arrangement. It's to help have a presence there for the town and also to help generate some of that initial revenue to get this going.
Yeah, I'm not even worried about the revenue. Yes, we did talk about it for office space. It's just the location of where you have 3,000 people and they need to go and any retail stores, then you're taking 40% of the 10,000 for.
Understand.
That's my concern.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that a little bit. I mean, I'd rather see that in 3, for example, kind of off the center area and not take away from the retail. Or if you do want to use cottage retail, I'd want it to be more like Carrie does with the Hive. So it's actually an active Parks and Rec space rather than an office for admin. It's nice to have admin where the people are, but I don't think that's the best use right in the middle of what could be retail, which would actually activate the space.
And that's what we talked about with Brandon.
Yeah. So as long as you guys are going through the different options, I think that's what we were all looking for, is to be given alternatives on stuff like that. So that's wonderful. Thanks for noting that. Any other questions on what that very strong financial slide? And are these numbers, we're not going to be building for about a year. Did you already put in higher construction costs and everything? Are these the numbers we're hopefully going to see, as long as it doesn't go even faster?
We're all hopeful and optimistic. I mean, these are inflated numbers to kind of.
So it's not today's numbers.
Not inflated, but like based on we're assuming some sort of escalation in costs, but, it's, I wish I had the magic ball,
I get
to know what the costs were going to
I
be.
just want to make sure that these are already escalated for a year out or something.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they are, so thank you very much for that.
Contingency would be a better word than escalated. Just saying.
Sounds good. Any other questions on this slide? Colleagues? Okay, thank you.
And just to kind of intro to the private investment piece that we'll get into in the closed section. But, we've added a minimum cost for the flex commercial. Some of the stuff we've already talked about, the floor plates for the cottage retail, increase the size of the retail in the mixed-use building, escalation or contingency in construction costs. And then we've looked to accommodate more spaces in the parking deck from the original plan. And then some key components of the plan, things we've discussed in the past, and that we'll get into more when we look at the pro forma. But right now, the plan is to have all the multifamily units, the apartment units, to be market rate rental. We do still plan to have a sustainably designed building. The townhomes, we've talked about that a little bit here, and that's going to be an evolution on what that entire block looks like. But right now, we've planned to keep those townhomes as for rent. Retailers, we're looking at independent type of retailers, non-franchise retailers, and then both for the cottage retail and the flex building, if we are able to define users, as we go through the plans over the next year, we can push that into phase 1A. And then, current plan is for Singh to purchase the entire property that we've been contemplating right now, and then donate the sections that will be owned by the town ultimately back to the town.
Can you just explain why Foxglove is preferred to be a private street rather than a public street that we could close, for example, for festivals and things like that?
I can probably speak to that a little bit. In talking with the planning department, there's a couple reasons, I think. One is it gives us more flexibility in how we design that and what some of the requirements are. So again, we don't expect that it won't be used for some thoroughfare, but it could potentially be posted as a no-through traffic. So trying to maintain that, again, it gives us that flexibility in how we potentially park it, saves us potentially some money in how we construct it. It doesn't have to be built to full spec in terms of curb and gutter and everything that would be on a public street. Don't necessarily need that for. And again, that's not really why it's intended to be there. It's not a needed connector. It's there more for additional space that we can grow into or hold events on and do that sort of thing. So, but primarily for the flexibility of how we can design and use it.
Okay. I'd just be interested in knowing if we were to actually build it to spec, how that would affect things so that we're not trying to fix it later, adding curb and gutter or whatever. I'd just be curious about that.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other questions for open session before we transition?
I have one. So
yes, please.
The discussion is still open, like we said about the townhome rental versus townhome, like for sale. You're insisting that townhomes should be rental.
That's our plan, and I think I'll be better able to explain that to you as we get into closed session here. But yeah, that's currently as we continue to explore the various options. That's what we'd prefer to have.
Okay.
And Avi, if you would you skip to that next and just hit
Sure.
the timeline now, because we won't come back into open session.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is a kind of a timeline that outlines where we currently we are right here, and so 90 days. We hope to have a development services agreement. In that time frame, we do plan to continue to work on based on some of the feedback here today and our own internal research, continue to work on the plans. But we anticipate as we get into construction design, construction plan design post development services agreement, that we'd have site plan approval sometime spring of next year, get into construction plan completion late summer, building permits, and potential groundbreaking next August. We think that Phase 1A would take a couple of years to build, and then as we've continued to, as we've talked all about all along, that Phase 1B, we plan to start within the first year after completion of Phase 1A. And then we talked a good amount about the business and retailer recruitment that we've been doing it since we've been awarded the MOU back in the fall, and so that'll be ongoing.
Okay, it looks like at some point we're going to have to move the farmer's market again to another temporary location.
Yeah.
So that's part of the growing pains there. Okay, any questions about the timeline, Councilmember Garamella?
So, in this plan, can we split up the open space area to have a quicker turnaround than as part of the 1A construction, right? So if you go back to the charts on the top, right, so these are two different things, one on the left and one on the right. If this town center, like the green area, if that can go accelerated, and then you can have your time there, because both are not really touching each other, and so wanted to see if we can have more.
Yeah, I think it's possible, and I think we talked about this a little bit in January, and I think that'll be something we get further into as we get into the meat of the design. I think that the big thing would be if there is any sort of, and Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's any sort of mass grading that needs to occur, that, where things need to move around from, say, the top, from the multifamily portion of the site to the town green portion of the site, and then how utilities are worked. And I think that, but if that's the desire of the town, I don't see why that wouldn't be possible. I think we could do it.
Because the rest all will take its own sweet time, right? Like 2 years or something.
Yep.
But this can quickly come off, and people can start taking advantage of it and appreciate the work and effort that you guys are putting right off the bat.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, and then to get the farmers market and all those uses back active again, I think that'd be fantastic.
Okay. Good. Anything else before closed session then from staff or Singh? No? Okay. I think we'll probably take a 10-minute break in between because we've been going at it for a while. So at this time, we do not plan to conduct any public business after tonight's closed session. So at this time, I'd like to thank everyone for watching this meeting of the Morrisville Town Council. We hope you plan to join us again. Please feel free to email your town council members at towncouncil@townofmorrisville.org or visit www.townofmorrisville.org/council for additional contact information. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to enter into closed session for both of these closed session items. Councilmember Rao.
Mayor and council, I move that we go into pursuant to 143.318-11A4 and A5. I move that we go into closed session for discussion of an economic development matter and a real property acquisition matter.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of entering closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, that carries unanimously 6-0. It is 10:05. Let's please reconvene at 10:16.
Yeah, I missed.